It's finally here. Every single From Software boss ranked easiest to hardest. Now, there is going to be 243 bosses in this boss ranking, so I don't know how long this is going to take, but my guess before recording any of this is it's going to be about 3 hours long, but I don't know for sure, so we'll see. A couple things before we get started here. The first thing is, this is all the named bosses that I could find. So there is going to be a couple that won't be included for Elden Ring, because I only found 100 Elden Ring bosses, and also there will be no Chalice dungeon bosses from Bloodborne either, because I'm a loser and I'm not dealing with that. And a quick other thing, if you see a number at the top right of the screen, number 1 through 25, that is the rank of how much I like the boss in the top 25 favorite bosses I have in the series. However, I have been recording this since probably April of last year of 2021, and I just got everything done because I just got a PS5 to be able to play Demon's Souls, and I've played through it twice now, and I think I've got a good understanding of the bosses. This is going to include all the From Software bosses. That includes Demon's Souls, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. So we have a lot of these to go through. I'm starting this recording on the 12th of January 2023. I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm sure it'll be fun, and I'm sure I'll include something right after this part of how long it actually took. But without further ado, let's get into all these bosses. This is going to take a while, so get some snacks or something. I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the video. The easiest boss in the From Software catalog is no doubt the Soldier of Godrick. The first boss you'll probably find in the tutorial area of Elden Ring. It is literally just an enemy, like a complete basic enemy. He does some basic swings and stuff, and he's really slow. You should be able to take him out pretty easily. And yes, I've died to this boss once in accident. Difficulty's 1 out of 100. This boss got a name change for some reason. This used to be Miranda the Blighted Bloom, but they changed it to the Miranda Blossom for some reason. Maybe they took my comment on my Elden Ring boss ranking to heart, because I said that no one names a flower. But this is a very easy boss. All you pretty much do is just go hog wild, just keep beating it up. Honestly, it's literally going to do absolutely nothing to stop you other than poison you, which takes very little health in Elden Ring. And it might shoot some light beams at you that do almost no damage. So yeah, difficulty is 2 out of 100. It's your boy, Patches, coming in at 241. Mr. I Want to Be in Every Single From Software game is back again. But this time he's a boss, so he's been upgraded. He is basically just a normal NPC with a spear that can do a little bit of damage to you, but he should not kill you by any means. He also spits some mystery liquid at you that I'm kind of scared to ask what it does, but it doesn't seem to do anything, so you can stand in the red clouds and nothing will happen really. But he's just a basic NPC, but he's got less health than normal. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. Number 240, Guardian Golem. I know we're getting a lot of Elden Ring bosses right off the bat here, but trust me, there's going to be a lot more because there's 100 Elden Ring bosses, but there will be times where it won't be this much. The Guardian Golem is literally just an enemy you can find outside. You just gotta hit its legs a bunch, it'll fall down, then you can just deal massive fucking damage to it. It's not a big deal. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. The Stone Digger Troll is once again an enemy you can just go find right outside. You can go knock him down and do a bunch of damage, kind of like the Guardian Golem, only he doesn't have his legs glowing and it won't do as much damage. Or you can just stand behind him. Be careful of his actual attacks though, because they can hurt pretty bad, but it's still not anything to be worried about. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. The weird fucking cat thing is back. The Erdtree Watchdog is pretty much just a basic enemy and it eventually becomes one, but it's a little bit more dangerous, I guess, than the last two, because his movements are all over the place and it's kind of hard to tell what he's about to do, but he doesn't have that much health to compensate and it's not that bad. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. Literally just an enemy with a shield on his head. That's all I'm going to say about this one. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. Could it be a boss that becomes an enemy later on? It's Pinwheel. At least this is an Elden Ring. The butt of every joke in the Dark Souls series is at number 236. He is very weak, and the most dangerous thing he can do is shoot a fireball at you that does negligible damage. Difficulty is 3 out of 100. The Beastman of Farum Azula, although is still a weak son of a bitch, is still very easy. However, he does have some long combos that can catch you off guard and can stunlock you to death. That being said though, don't get caught in it and you'll be fine. Difficulty is 4 out of 100. Demi-human Sheeves are really fucking easy. The only problem with them is the little dickheads that are running around near them that can pretty much get you caught in a corner and just kill you. And unfortunately, I actually have died to this boss. And it gets really annoying when you keep walking in there and then they just keep walking up to you. That being said, they all pretty much have 1 HP each. And then the bosses themselves don't even fight you at the same time. So it's not that big of a deal. Difficulty is 4 out of 100. The Grave Warden Duelist is yet another early game boss in Elden Ring. I wonder why they're so easy. He does pretty much no damage whatsoever. However, his attacks have a way longer range than you'd think they do because he has chains on his hammers too. So if you're going to watch out for anything in this entire list, watch out for that. Difficulty is 4 out of 100. Alright, finally, a not Elden Ring boss once again. The Covetous Demon is a fat slob that is pretty much useless. Reminds me of my dad. That being said, he does do a little bit of damage, and he can in fact kill you. I've never died to him, but he can do a little bit of damage. He also has an attack where he eats you and then spits you out with none of your armor, although I have never seen this attack, and I'm only saying that because I hear it's something he can do. It's a pretty cool boss, other than it being laughably easy. Difficulty is 4 out of 100. You might be intimidated when you come into this fight with the Spirit Caller Snail, but if you know what you're doing, this is one of the easiest fights in the entire series. All you have to do is look for a little glowy part of the room and then smack it, because that is where the Spirit Caller Snail is. Ignore the spirits, they aren't going to do anything. Just kill the Spirit Caller Snail and everything will go away. Difficulty is 5 out of 100. Okay, first of all, the first Sekiro boss, and second of all, this is going to be a long entry because this is hard to explain, but once you know how to do it, it's pretty easy. The Folding Screen Monkeys is based on the proverb, see no evil, speak no evil, and hear no evil. However, there's also a fourth monkey in here, which is do no evil, which is often forgotten. As soon as you get into this fight, you're going to want to kill the do no evil monkey, which is very, very easy if you just immediately turn around and just attack the wall. Because he's invisible, just standing there. The see no evil monkey is just going to keep running around from you. All you're going to want to do is just face fuck this one and just try to run at it. Honestly, you can do that for all 4 of them, which is kind of what I do, but that takes a really long time and it's not really the strat you're supposed to use. The speak no evil monkey is really annoying because it will just cause everybody to flee. And it can't do anything, but if it sees you, all of the other monkeys will run away, which is amazing. The green monkey you can get if you ring the bell while he's right next to it in the central area. But once again, I don't do any of those things other than the first do no evil monkey. I literally just run at them until I kill them, and that works pretty well. Difficulty is 5 out of 100. Balls Carrion is up next, and last time I said his name sounds like balls, and I still find that joke hilarious. He is actually pretty much just a Stone Digger troll, but he has a lot less defense and poise, so you can knock him down real easy. However, he does have some magic that if you're not quick on your feet can do a little bit of damage, so I'd be careful of that. Difficulty is 6 out of 100. The Ancient Wyvern, or Wyvern, I don't know how you pronounce that word, is up next, and he actually is pretty intimidating for a boss that is this slow. The only reason he is this slow is because he is very easy if you know the trick. If you don't know the trick, go ahead, try to fight him one-on-one. You probably will win, he's not too hard. That being said, if you just run to the left and all the way up the path, you can easily kill him, which is pretty boring, but if you put that one song that YouTube uses for their ads for surveys, it makes it kind of look funny, so here. The only problem here is that this lizard right here with the chain axe type thing, he can fucking outrange you somehow real easily, even if you're like a couple meters away. He will actually just strong fuck you. It doesn't matter how far away you are, he'll get you. But once you get to the top of the path, you can jump down and do a critical hit and insta-kill it, which is kind of boring. This is the easiest boss in Dark Souls 3 and I've still died to it, so that's something. Difficulty 6 out of 100. Crossbreed Priscilla is way too easy. I feel like this boss could have been a lot cooler if she had like a ton more health or a couple more attacks that did a little more damage. But she's going to start out the fight invisible after you hit her for the first time because you're a monster. And where you're going to look is on the snow because that's where her footprints are going to be. I'm not going to make the foot joke again, that's later. Once you figure that out though, you can knock her down pretty easily and she'll go uninvisible. Or visible, I suppose. And then the fight becomes a cakewalk. If you knock off her tail, you get a little dagger and that's pretty cool, I guess. She can also blood loss you, which does no damage for some reason. This boss could have been so cool if it wasn't so easy. Difficulty is 7 out of 100. Hey, the first Demon Souls boss. Demon Souls bosses might be a little bit higher than they should be because it's my most recent, although the highest is still a 56 in difficulty, so they're still not that high. But anyway, True King Allant here is a slug man thing. I don't know what he is. But he kind of just flops around and hits you. The only reason he's not lower is because I let him hit me a couple times, and he actually does a good amount of damage if you let him hit you. But you probably shouldn't let him hit you. Anyway, difficulty is 8 out of 100. Prowling Magus in Congregation, or Magus, whatever, is a horde encounter boss that is not really a horde considering not all of them attack you at once. They kind of just waltz towards you a little bit, and some just kind of crawl towards you. It's kind of weird. If you want to strat, if you really need it, if you really just don't want to face fuck this thing and just try to attack all of them at once, I guess a strat could be try to take out the healers first because they will heal everyone else. But you really don't need to do that. You can literally just face fuck it and it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to out heal your damage more than likely. The little guys actually can do a little bit of damage, so I'd be careful of those guys on the ground. But other than that, it's pretty easy. Difficulty is 8 out of 100. Depending on when you come here, this boss can either be kind of annoying or really, really easy. The Moonlight Butterfly is a ranged boss, which means if you don't have a ranged option, you're just going to have to wait for it to tire itself out and sit on the bridge for a little bit. It's going to have literally 3 attacks. It's going to have a bunch of pinwheels that'll spread out like a 6 formation. I don't know how else to describe it. And it'll shoot twice and do a little bit of damage. It'll have 3 homing ones and it'll have a big one. These literally do almost no damage whatsoever. But if you come here really early, they can hurt you pretty bad. And also it can be really annoying if you have a really weak weapon at the beginning with no ranged options, because you won't be able to do anything except for wait for it to land and then do a little bit of damage and wait for another 20 minutes. It's more annoying than difficult. Difficulty is 9 out of 100. Good old Asylum Demon is up at 223. I don't know if this was the first ever boss I encountered in a From Software game. I think the Cleric Beast technically was, but we're not going to count him right now. But the Asylum Demon, if you know what you're doing, as soon as you walk, you're going to want to run directly to the left and run away from him. I did not know this the first time. Or you can just throw black fire bombs at him if you chose that as a gift. But if you didn't, you can climb all the way to the top, and you can plunging attack him and do half his health bar. And then he's going to proceed to have about 3 attacks where he's going to slam his little staff thing, I guess, down at you and do a little bit of damage. Or he has this butt slam attack that does a little bit of damage too. He's a little bit difficult for a tutorial boss if you've never played a From Software game before, but if you know what you're doing, he's cake. Difficulty is 9 out of 100. For a boss with such terrifying music and a terrifying display of what happens in his cutscene, this thing is actually one of the easiest things on the planet. I don't know if I came here a little late, but I'm pretty sure that he is one of the easiest bosses I've ever fought. He does almost no attacks. I mean, he can kind of do this like leech thing where it'll stick to you, but it doesn't do any damage. Also, he does this huge like sweeping attack that'll knock you off your feet, but that's pretty much it. He has like no health and no other attacks. And also, apparently you can make it even easier if you use fire. So I don't know how this got in here, but yeah. Difficulty is 10 out of 100. The Last Giant is a really cool lore boss. And also the first boss you're ever going to run into in Dark Souls 2, probably. He is very easy, and all he does is kind of just stand there and swipe at you, because he's so big. You can just attack his legs, and he'll do pretty much nothing. He does do some damage if it actually connects with you, but that shouldn't happen unless the camera fucks you up, which happens. Once he gets to about 1/4 health or so, he's going to rip off his arm, which is coincidental, because I also do that. I've made that joke 3 videos in a row now. And the fight becomes a little more difficult as he has a little bit more range, but it's still kind of cake. Difficulty is 10 out of 100. This boss kind of scared me the first time I came in here because I did no damage to it, but I didn't get the gimmick. All you have to do is knock him off his feet once, and then he just takes billions and billions of damage. He has a couple attacks that can do some decent damage where he throws his little chakram around, but that's about it. Difficulty is 10 out of 100. No, I didn't die to this boss. What are you talking about? The Witches of Hemwick coming up next at number 219. This is the first Bloodborne boss, and I'm pretty sure we have gotten a boss from every single game now. The Witches of Hemwick are literally just two witches that are going to be walking around in the room invisible with a bunch of like cemetery shade type little guys trying to kill you. But they really don't do much unless you get close to them. And if you have 0 insight, they don't even spawn those. They are just kind of walking around the room doing nothing then. You just have to find them. If you get close enough, they'll turn invisible, and then you can just beat up on them as long as you want. If you take too long, though, I think they'll res each other, but it takes so long for them to do so, you should be able to get them down pretty easily. Difficulty is 10 out of 100. This boss is just kind of annoying. It's not hard in any sense of the word. It just is annoying to walk around, and that's why I gave it an 11. The Tibium Mariner is kind of just a piece of shit that likes to walk around and make his little skeleton friends do all the work, and sometimes he'll summon the waves of Neptune to come and try to kill you. That's literally it. Difficulty is 11 out of 100. The Deacons of the Deep are an intimidating boss for sure. When you walk in, there is a shit ton of priests or something just rushing you with candlesticks and stuff, and if you're not careful, you can get overrun and be killed by these things, and I've had it happen to me. Not only that, when he gets to about half health, he's going to spawn a big, like, Pope that will have that red glow that you've been trying to chase around and kill for the past 5 minutes. And they also have a new attack where they can summon a giant curse ball that, if you get cursed, you're dead. There's nothing you can do about it. It can be a little difficult if you don't know what you're doing, but if you kind of just rush them down, you can probably make it out unscathed. Difficulty is 11 out of 100. Another boss that becomes a normal enemy later in the game, only this one's kind of intimidating, because he has a status effect tied to him that is actually kind of scary. He has a bunch of frostbite attacks, one where he blows on the ground, and one where he, like, shoves his sword in the ground and pulls it out and has a huge AoE. However, he doesn't have a lot of health to back up how much damage he does, so you should be okay with him. Difficulty is 12 out of 100. The first time you run into this boss, you're going to be like, oh shit, this is intimidating and kind of difficult. The second time, you're going to be like, okay, I think I know what to do now. The third time, you're going to be like, okay. The fourth time, wow, I'm really fucking sick of this thing. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and so on and so on. You're going to run into this thing a lot in Elden Ring. And he is not the hardest boss, but he's also not the easiest. He only has a few attacks. He can throw that staff around very easily, and it can definitely do some damage. And also, he has a butt slam attack that does a huge amount of holy damage. The only attack that I'm really kind of nervous about whenever I go against him is when he does this huge, like, slam with his staff in the ground that has a big thing of light come out of it. And it's going to summon a bunch of, like, homing little star shards that just home onto you. And if you don't stop moving, they will kill you. Difficulty is 13 out of 100. Yep, it's another boss that becomes an enemy later on. This one is kind of hard to describe because it's literally just a normal enemy with a big axe. That's all you're going to get out of me. Difficulty is 13 out of 100. Back in time, you're going to fight the Giant Lord, which is just the last giant, but alive, back in time. That's why he remembered you in the first battle. That's why these two battles are kind of cool, actually. That being said, this guy is still very, very easy, unfortunately. And the only problem here is he has a sword now, which does a lot of damage. But other than that, he can't do much. He's just going to do the exact same stuff that the last giant did. Only he's going to swing at you and do a little bit of damage this time. Difficulty is 14 out of 100. The Dragon Rider is a boss that doesn't get enough credit in my opinion. It's not in my top 25, but it's kind of close. The Dragon Rider is a big lumbering knight with a giant halberd, and he's just going to walk at you and do things very slowly and try to hit you. You can knock him off the edge, too, of this little ring if you don't put the other 2 rings up, but I'm not a coward, so I don't do that. All you have to pretty much do with this guy is dodge his attack to the left, hit him once or twice, and then repeat over and over and over, which is kind of like the standard knight boss thing in Dark Souls 2. However, this one's way easier because you can kind of just brute force it a little bit if you really want to, because he doesn't do that much damage. Difficulty is 14 out of 100. This is the first boss on this list that kind of scares me whenever I go into it, but it's really, really easy if you just don't fuck up. He put all of his stats when he leveled up into attack and none into health. He has almost no health whatsoever. However, if you get hit by him, it's fucking over, because he can pretty much just combo lock you to death. And when I say combo lock, I mean like he will literally stun you to death. You cannot knock him out of the combo. He also has a ranged move that keeps you stunned in place for like 5 seconds so he can get up and do that combo on you. However, that being said, if you hit him once or twice, you can stagger him enough to literally just kill him. Difficulty is 15 out of 100. The Onyx Lord is kind of a son of a bitch. He has a massive sword and he likes to almighty push and almighty pull you with his gravity magic, which is all inconsequential, honestly. It does no damage and you shouldn't be worried about it. There is only one attack you should be worried about here, and that is when he gets really low, he's going to do this huge meteor rain attack that can just hit you while you're down and instant kill you. But other than that, if you can kill him before he even gets to it, it's like not a big deal. He doesn't have a ton of health. Difficulty is 15 out of 100. The Celestial Emissary is just boneless Deacons of the Deep, but it's a little harder, I would say. The harder part about it is you can't really tell which one you're supposed to be attacking, but you can kind of figure out pretty easily if you just hit them and they all just have a normal health bar until the one you hit, the health bar at the bottom goes down. But just like the Deacons of the Deep, once you get him to about half health or so, he's going to become a giant, which is coincidental because I also do that when I get half health. Jesus, this joke's really running out. And he becomes a little more dangerous, but not too much more dangerous. You can still just wail on him until he dies. He really won't do too much, but he is there and he can do a little bit of damage, along with his little other Mr. Meeseeks people. Difficulty is 15 out of 100. Oh god, it's the end of Neon Genesis Evangelion again. I'm so confused. The Mimic Tier. This one is pretty easy to explain, honestly. It's literally just going to be you, your exact character with your exact armor, everything, Ashes of War, magic, whatever, and you're going to be fighting him. He only has one Estus though, and you have as much as you want, so it doesn't really matter. He's kind of easy. However, if you really want to make this like trivial, you can just take off all your armor beforehand and then go in, and then equip all your armor again, and then fight him, but that's kind of a cowardly way to fight this thing, I feel like, because it's too easy anyway. Difficulty is 15 out of 100. Oh god, it's Hallway Simulator 2011 again. I actually kind of enjoy this fight, and this one just barely misses the top 25 bosses in the FromSoft catalog, in my opinion. But he's probably number 26 or 27. This guy genuinely has, I think, 3 attacks only. He has one where he's going to shoot a shit ton of arrows at you over and over, and you can literally just sidestep them. You can just walk to the left or the right slightly, and they will miss you. But if you do get hit by them, they will probably stun lock you and kill you, so just don't get hit by those. He has another attack where he's going to shoot little soul wisp things into the sky, which will all home into you, and that's honestly the most dangerous attack in my opinion. Because once again, if you get hit by one, you're going to be hit by all of them, and you will probably die. And then he has one more where he can shoot a massive soul arrow through everything at you. My strat here is to walk around the arrows when he shoots them at you. Just keep walking forward and walk around them. If he does the wisps, stand behind a pillar. And if he does a giant soul arrow, just try to dodge through it. Just try to roll through it. And then once you get to him, wail on him. There's a couple Elden Ring bosses on this list with no audio because I'm a fucking idiot and I forgot to hit the record button on the audio. So you're going to have to bear with me for those. The Frenzied Duelist is literally pretty much just the exact same boss as the Grave Warden Duelist. Only he's got a few more tricks up his sleeve and he has a giant axe instead of 2 hammers on a rope. Now, I would have put him a lot lower if I didn't die to him a couple of times in this playthrough somehow. I don't even know how that happened. I just fucking lost, and I'm just an idiot, I guess? I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Difficulty is 16 out of 100. Finally, a top 25 FromSoftware boss of all time, in my opinion. The Soccer Dragon, or the Divine Dragon in the English version, is the best dragon in the series in my opinion. Only thing that comes close is Placidusax, which we'll get to eventually. This is just so unfortunate. It could have been so much better, but the boss is just really easy, unfortunately. So there's not much you can do. The entire boss consists of you going on these little tree branches and then using your lightning reversal to redirect the lightning back right towards the dragon. Once you do that, he's going to get lower and lower health and lower posture, which I don't know how the dragon has posture, don't ask me, until he's going to get to his Desperation attack, where he's just going to launch waves and waves of wind swords at you, which you can easily block until he starts doing the ones that are like across the ground, and then he might catch you off guard and hit you off of jumping out of another one, which is kind of annoying actually, but it's still really cool. And then in one of the best FromSoftware sequences of all times, to kill the dragon, you get launched into the air on the last lightning strike you're trying to redirect, and the dragon comes and tries to eat you, and you shock it right in his face. It's so cool. And you land, and then you grab his tears from inside of his skull. It's really cool. I love the Divine Dragon. Amazing boss. Difficulty is 16 out of 100. The Knight's Cavalry is just a dude on a horse, pretty much. He has a couple variants, but I'm just going to cover them all pretty much on this one. He's not ever really that hard. The only thing unique about him is he has 2 life gauges, one for his horse and one for him, and if you knock him off his horse, you can do a massive attack, and then he's going to eventually summon it, and you're going to want to fight him again. And you just repeat over and over and over. Difficulty 17 out of 100. Cool Arena Bad Boss. The Guardian Dragon comes after a really cool part of Dark Souls 2, which sucks because he sucks. He's a really boring dragon, and honestly, one of the worst dragons in the series, considering he is literally just so easy, and he doesn't do anything cool about it. He just kind of clings to the cage and blows fire from above, and sometimes he'll just go above you and blow fire down. I'm going to say a trick real quick, though I'm going to coin as the Pugster trick. If there's ever a dragon blowing fire at you in a Souls game, run up and to the left. It'll work every single time, and it won't hit you. Except for the Ancient Dragon, but we'll get to him. The Guardian Dragon literally will just stay in the air like half the time, so if you don't got a ranged weapon, just wait for him to come down, then hit him again. It's really easy. It's just really annoying because he just never fucking sits on the ground still. Difficulty 17 out of 100. A gorgeous boss fight. The Ancestor Spirit, unfortunately, is pretty easy. He's a deer. Do you need more than that? He has a couple like fire spirit breath things that can do a little bit of damage, and he's going to jump all around. It's kind of a DPS check, unfortunately. But however, the atmosphere here is gorgeous. He also has a bunch of little spirit animals all around here that he can kind of like absorb and heal himself. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Difficulty is 17 out of 100. This is another one of those Elden Ring bosses that doesn't have audio, so forgive me. Necromancer Garrus is just an NPC pretty much, but he just summons lots and lots and lots of skulls that will just home in on you. And if he gets close, he's going to hit you with his family skull mace or something like that, which does almost no damage. But those skulls can really be annoying because he just keeps sending them out. And you can still get hit by them, and if they do, it very well might stun lock you, like a lot of these lower bosses. He's very easy, though, because he doesn't really have that much health. He also is a snail that just rolls around for some reason. We don't really talk about him, though. Difficulty is 18 out of 100. One of the grossest, if not the grossest, boss on this list, the Curse-Rotted Greatwood comes in at the big ol' number 200. He's going to start out as this disgusting little thing in the corner that you have to just knock all the pustules off of. And he does take a fuck ton of damage as soon as you hit them off. But he also has a bunch of little mobs that are just going to rush you all the time, and it's really fucking annoying. He also has a move where he just like straight stands up, which is really scary because I very, very rarely see it. But when he does it, he just like runs at you, and it's really fucking weird and scary looking, but it's really rare. And then he has some moves where he'll like do an ass crash where like diarrhea will come out, like no joke. It's a really gross boss, and then once he falls through the floor, which you don't take any fall damage for some reason here, he's going to spawn a hand out of his body, kind of like Evangelion. I just watched that anime, can you tell? And it gets another point that you can just attack if you really want to, but honestly, keep focusing on the pustules. Once you get those all out, he will just die, and it's great. Difficulty is 18 out of 100. A really, really cool looking boss that unfortunately is very, very easy. He is going to basically just swipe at you with his big ass hands and pretty much do nothing else except for blow fire at you that moves at a snail's pace. The only problem here is there is a little hole in the center of this arena. Everybody talks about this when they rank this boss. It is very, very easy to fall in and insta-die. That is all this boss is. Difficulty is 19 out of 100. The less imposing of the two demi-human queens, Margot, I don't know. She favors the physical attacks instead of magic, unlike her sister, who we will get to in a little bit. Margot here is going to have a few spells at the beginning, and then once she gets upset, she's going to throw her staff at you, which is kind of funny looking. And then she's going to parade all around, and it's going to be a basic, just decent-sized enemy, I guess. There's not much to say about it. Her attacks do quite a bit of damage, and it is easy to get caught off guard and go and die once or twice, but it's not that big of a deal. Difficulty is 20 out of 100. Finally, a good boss. Not my top 25, but he's pretty close. Iodex Gundyr is a big motherfucker that you're going to face more than once in this playthrough. And he is actually an extremely intimidating boss. Especially if this is your first Souls game, this guy is not going to go easy on you. He is going to be an extremely hard and fast night boss for your first boss. The only thing that you have going for you is he takes a lot of damage, and he doesn't do an absolute shit ton, but he's going to deal it out real fast, and you better hope you're fast enough to dodge it. At about half health, he's going to explode into the quote-unquote pus of man, which is gross, but his attacks become extremely large and exaggerated, and there's not much you can do about like blocking or parrying it, but you can just hit anywhere on him now. He's also a bigger target, but the camera also fucks up now, so have fun with that shit. Difficulty is 20 out of 100. The old Dragon Slayer is really not that big of a threat when he's alone. You'll get that joke later if you've never played any of these games. All of his attacks that once were really fast in Dark Souls 1 are extremely slow and exaggerated here. And instead of lightning powers, he has darkness powers, I guess. I don't know how that works. He got Norded, I guess. And that little spear thing he uses is really slow now. He does do a lot of damage, and this is a pain to get here if you go here right at the beginning. And it's kind of a hard boss if you go here at the beginning of the game. But other than that, he's not that big of a deal. Difficulty is 21 out of 100. The Crystallian twins are like the normal Crystallian, only 2. And one has a giant spear and he jumps and stabs at you a lot. And the other one is business as usual. It's the same thing, knock them down once, they take shit tons of damage. You can kind of kite them around if you really want to, but you can kind of just brute force it, which is what I do. Difficulty is 21 out of 100. This boss kind of sucks for a boss that's based on the immortal Zod from Berserk, but what can you do, I guess? He's kind of easy. First of all, go take out the archers before you go and walk forward on this bridge like you want to. You know you want to. Kill him first, then jump down. Then your real battle here is going to be the bridge, when he's going to keep trying to knock you off it. But if you don't get knocked off, he's pretty simple, especially if you have Lightning Risen. Difficulty is 21 out of 100. It's like the Pumpkinhead, but there's 2. Once again, bad joke, sorry. This one is a little bit more challenging, and I actually have died to this one, because they are in an extremely tiny room for how big they are. And they can easily just get up on you and give you no room to do anything. But the only problem is they have no health, and their attacks don't do a shit ton of damage. That being said, they're still really fucking easy. Difficulty is 22 out of 100. A kind of intimidating boss for how early in the game he is. He is an extremely fast little bitch. But he does do a little bit of damage, and he can bleed you, which are dangerous, in fact. He can be a little bit of a motherfucker if you're not really fast on your feet already. If this is like your first Souls game, you're going to have probably a little bit of trouble with this guy because of how fast he is. That being said, he has no health, like a lot of the bosses on this list, and you fight him so early on that this is kind of inconsequential. However, you're going to want to do this fight because he does drop a pretty damn good weapon. Difficulty is 22 out of 100. The Phalanx is a big blob with a shit ton of shields. It's a kind of a cool boss where you just have to keep knocking off the other guys with the shields, and then once you kill them all, it kind of leaves the core open, and then you can attack it. It gets kind of annoying if you get in between like 30 spears at once and they just keep poking you over and over and over. But if you just kind of like roll away from them for a minute and heal with some grass, you should be fine. They give you plenty of time to heal, they're really slow. Then once you get to the core, just keep attacking it and hope that there's no spears near you. Difficulty is 22 out of 100. This fucker doesn't bring too much to the table, except for he is only a bleed specialist. Everything he does blood magic, and that's really annoying. He's gonna spawn out of the ground. He's gonna spawn out of the ground out of a pool of blood, just like Mohg. We'll get to him. And he just has a lot of blood magic. He's gonna use it to like stab his hand and then like spray the blood at you. All the blood Ashes of War that you have, he pretty much has. Just be wary because all the bleed stacks up and it can be really annoying. Difficulty is 22 out of 100. Crystal Sage is a bitch. He is really similar to a boss that was in Demon Souls, but we'll get to her a lot later because she's hot, and this one is not. The Crystal Sage is just gonna do a variety of crystal magic that will do a little bit of damage, and it can be a little scary. I have died to this boss once or twice, especially my first playthrough. I died, I think, twice. And it's gonna be kind of annoying, but it won't be too bad. He also can hit you if you're close up with his little rapier, and you can parry that, which is great. Once he gets to about half health or so, he's gonna start spawning a bunch of Crystal Sages all around, and you have to find the real one. You can find the real one if he's using purple magic instead of blue. He also spawns a bunch of crystals in the ground that I really don't know what they do, so if you know, tell me in the comments. But yeah, that's pretty much him, and he's a bitch. Difficulty is 22 out of 100. The Fell Twins would be a lot harder if they just attacked you together, which I don't know why they don't. It's going to be 2 Fell Twins, one with a giant axe and one with a machete. thing. The one with the axe also has blood grease on his weapon, so it actually is a little bit more dangerous than you'd think. That being said, they're just two fell twins back to back, pretty much. If you do, for some reason, want to fight them together, go for it. It's probably a lot harder, but I've never even tried it because there's no point to it. Difficulty is 23 out of 100.
My name is Kyobu Masataka Oniwa! As I breathe, you will not pass the castle's gate!
What an opening. Everyone loves that opening. Kyobu Oniwa is going to be the first ever horse combat boss in a From Software game, and it does it really well. This boss was a fucking pain in the ass the first time I played Sekiro because I didn't really get the game yet, and I just could not kill him for the fucking life of me. He's really fast, and he does shit tons of damage for how little health you have. That being said, if you get up near him and just keep attacking and blocking, it's pretty easy. In fact, the blocking here is actually kind of annoying, surprisingly, compared to most bosses because it's kind of hard to see what he's going to do because he is on a horseback and his movements are all kind of janky. That being said, he staggers a lot and he takes a lot of damage. And if you have firecrackers already, it literally just trivializes the fight. Once he gets into phase 2, he has a new attack where he somehow swings his giant spear on a rope, I think? I don't even know how the fuck he does that. And it's really kind of annoying because it does so much fucking damage so early in the game. But once you get the game, like on your subsequent playthroughs, this guy is actually a piece of cake. Difficulty is 23 out of 100. Battle Mage Shoes is a little bit of a threat if you're not a mage, which I very rarely am. His magic is, weirdly enough, the least of your worries, kind of. If you get up close to him, he's going to have this big hammer made of magic, so I guess I lied. I am not good at writing scripts, apparently. This magic hammer does a shit ton of damage if you're close enough to the impact, which it does have a little bit of a AoE when it hits the ground, so be a little careful. But he doesn't have a ton of health, and you can take him down pretty easily most of the time, but just really watch out for the hammer because it actually is dangerous. Difficulty is 24 out of 100. Drafted Scion, I put a little bit too low, I think, last time on my Elden Ring boss ranking, but here I am to make it right. That being said, he's not hard by any means, or even medium difficulty. He's still pretty easy. The only problem is, I put him a little bit too low, I think. I put him on, like, the rank level, like the 5th lowest or something like that. He's definitely not. He has really erratic movements, and he's all over the place. He doesn't have a ton of health, and he doesn't do a ton of damage. That's the reason why I put him so low last time. The reason why I don't think he's actually that low is because when he gets low health, he does this really fast spin move that does absolute shit tons of health bar if you get hit. So as long as you don't get hit by that, he is really easy. But if you do get hit by it, your game is pretty much over. Difficulty is 24 out of 100. I wrote this boss's name wrong in my script. I just thought I'd let you know. I named it Demi-Human Maggie instead of Demi-Human Queen Maggie. Just a little funny thing that happened. Demi-Human Maggie, which is what I'm going to call her now, is a little bit harder than her sister. This one favors magic over melee. And she has a fuck ton of little bitches that try to come and attack you the entire time. And if you don't take them out fast, they're going to gank you and kill you. This boss actually kind of is annoying. But it's still easy if you just brute force it, honestly. Like I said, the boss itself doesn't do a ton. And once you get her alone, it's really easy. But you have a chance of just getting sniped while you're trying to take out the little mobs. Other than that, it's not too hard. Difficulty is 25 out of 100. Regal Ancestor Spirit is almost literally the exact same boss as the Ancestor Spirit, with a couple new things that make it really cool. Remember earlier how he could absorb other animals to heal himself? Now sometimes he'll spawn out of another animal, and then he'll have that animal's properties. Like if he spawns out of a rabbit, he'll hop around on his hind legs and try to hit you. If he spawns out of a boar, he'll rush you down with his quote-unquote tusks, which are his antlers. And that kind of thing. It's really cool, and I really enjoy this boss almost every time I play it because it is such a somber mood, and it's just a beautiful boss. I love it. Difficulty is 25 out of 100. Alright, I'm gonna count these mobs before the boss as part of the boss fight, because fuck whoever decided to put the random, really annoying enemies that stun you in here. Because you can get stunned, and they can just kill you before the fight even begins. Because But once you get up to the boss fight, I believe it's an NPC or it can be a player character. I only fought the NPC version, so obviously the player version will vary. But for the NPC version, he is pretty easy. He is not that big of a threat, like, ever. In fact, I don't know of many people that will die to this boss. I died to this one once. But he's just kind of like a basic NPC boss. The only reason it's this high, quote-unquote, as in rank number 182 out of 240, is because the guys beforehand are just the biggest pains in the ass ever. Difficulty is 25 out of 100. I know. I'm very well aware that in the footage, I didn't do the thing you're supposed to do for this boss. I know. But this is the only footage I have right now, and I'm not going back through the game to get one footage. The Adjudicator is a big fat fuck. And his whole shtick is he has this, like, sword that is very clearly in his stomach that you're supposed to be hitting. And he'll get knocked down and you can attack the bird that is the actual Adjudicator, I guess. I didn't know this the first time I played this boss, because I went into every single one of these bosses blind. I figured out that the bird was what I was supposed to be attacking, but it never occurred to me to attack the sword in his stomach. So I spent literally, I think this is a 9-minute footage that I have sped up. I spent like 9 minutes trying to just jump on him and plunging attack the bird like hundreds of times. And I even bugged the game out and got stuck in a corner and him. As you see right here on the screen right now. So that's happening. But yeah, the boss is really easy if you know what you're doing. I'm just fucking stupid. Difficulty is 26 out of 100. This is another one of those Elden Ring bosses where there's no sound, so forgive that. The Royal Revenant is just pretty much a harder version of the Grafted Scion. The Royal Revenant is basically a Grafted Scion with no swords. And he just swings his arms around all over the fucking place. And they can easily clip you and do a little bit of damage, which builds up a fuck ton over the time. He also teleports around, disappears, and everything. Another fun fact, I didn't know this boss even existed until this playthrough, so that's kind of funny. Difficulty is 26 out of 100. Kind of a fun fact about this boss, also that I did not know, is you can bait the first Dragon Rider into breaking the pillar that the second one is on, and you can fight them both at the exact same time from the beginning. You don't have to wait for the other one to jump down. You can actually fight them both. So you don't have to deal with this little arching bullshit. But if you don't, one's going to be arching you from the top, and one is going to be trying to kill you with a melee weapon, just like the original Dragon Rider. But these bosses have absolutely no health at all. And it is very easy, but it is easy to get ganked, and they can stun lock you if they hit you one after another, after another, after another. It's just 2 Dragon Riders. That's pretty much it. Difficulty is 26 out of 100. High Lord Wolnir is a boss that a lot of people think is like one of the easiest bosses in Dark Souls 3. I don't know why. I just fuck up all the time on Wolnir. He's not hard by any means, and he's even really easy in concept. I don't know what's going on. I just am bad. He's going to be a giant skeleton with a lot of jewelry on his arms, and the whole thing is you're supposed to take out the jewelry so he gets dragged backwards into the abyss, because apparently that's what's holding him here somehow. He will spawn skeletons, he will blow smoke into the ground, and that's pretty much it. He'll sometimes swipe at you, but literally will do nothing. The thing that kind of gets me stuck is he'll gradually crawl towards. He will gradually crawl forward. I don't know why. I just did the motion with my hands. What he does, you can't see it, but he'll like gradually crawl forwards, and he'll sometimes like get you stuck against the wall, and then he'll blow smoke in the ground, so you have nowhere to go, and you literally can't do anything except accept your fate and die. I don't know why this happens. I probably died once a playthrough to this boss. Not even kidding. Difficulty is 27 out of 100. This boss is, no joke, probably the most unsettling looking boss in the entire series. I don't know what that little bag thing on his head is, or if that even is his head. It's just really weird looking, and I don't know why. It's kind of uncanny, and it's just not a good look. It's kind of creepy. The Dirty Colossus isn't that difficult if you do it last, honestly, which is when I did it. And he does do a little bit of damage with his big-ass punches and stuff, and he also farts. I'm not kidding, he farts. When he farts, I assume it poisons you. I have never been close enough to tell, but it's very clear what he's about to fart. You'll know. But he can do a little bit of damage, and it does kind of do, and it is kind of scary. Even at the end of the game here, he did a little bit of damage to me, so there's that. Difficulty is 27 out of 100. The Lost Sinner is great for a boss that you run into very early in the game. It is going to be basically a big dude with the sword, but he is very dexterous with the sword. He has some nice little spinny attacks, some jumping attacks, and he can really get up on you and scare you if you're not careful. I usually die once to this boss in every playthrough, like no joke. It's actually, he's pretty strong actually. That being said, if you come here later than like level 4, it's like really easy, because he doesn't do a ton of damage. But if you come here when you're supposed to, like really early, it's actually quite a challenge. But other than that, it's not. Difficulty is 27 out of 100. Deathbird is either really easy or really hard, depending on which one you fight. But I'm going to lump them all together right here. The Deathbird is a big bird with a skeleton head who's kind of cute if you kind of look at him the right way. But if you look at him from any other angle, then said angle he's the most terrifying thing known to man. He has this weird like hook spear thing that he likes to shove in your face like every 5 seconds. But the more dangerous thing I think he does is he likes to peck really fast at you, and he can knock down your health bar without you having a chance to do anything. But he also is very weak to holy, and he doesn't have a ton of health either. Difficulty is 27 out of 100. Skeleton Lords aren't much of a challenge unless you come here first, but I'm going to put this here for the sake that I did go here first once, and it was actually kind of a difficult battle. The Skeleton Lords are going to start as 3 Skeleton Lords, believe it or not. And each time you kill one of them, it's going to spawn more skeletons. One of them is going to spawn a bunch of armored skeletons, one's going to spawn like 5 billion just normal skeletons, and one's going to summon a couple bone wheel skeletons. Not the Dark Souls 1 ones though, thankfully. My strat here is to kill one Skeleton Lord, kill all the mobs that Skeleton Lord spawns, then kill the next Skeleton Lord, and then kill all the mobs that he spawns, and then the last one, and the last one. It's not too tough if you do it that way, but if you want to have a challenge, kill all the Skeleton Lords first, and then take on their entire army of skeletons that get spawned. It can be kind of fun. Difficulty is 27 out of 100. I know I came here really late in this footage, and I kind of forgot to do the Rune Bearer really early when you're supposed to fight him. I used a pretty shitty weapon that was completely unupgraded, so it makes it a little bit better. That being said, the Rune Bearer can be kind of difficult. He's extremely fast for a bear, and he's got a chunky health bar, and it's not the easiest early game boss by any means. But if you come here past, like, Godric, it's not that tough at all. He is still extremely fast, and good luck getting away from him when he's rampaging. It's kind of a difficult challenge. Difficulty is 28 out of 100. A fucking disgusting boss. The One Reborn has one of the coolest names in FromSoft history, in my opinion. What a cool name for a boss. For a boss that sucks. This boss is just a glorified DPS check, but if you want to make it even easier, you can go up to the sides of the towers and just knock down all the guys that are flinging fire at you. You really don't have to, but it makes it a little bit easier. And then after that, it's a DPS check, pretty much. It kind of sucks, but he's just going to flail all of his limbs, I guess, around at you, and it'll do a little bit of damage. What I like to do is I like to pop a Beast Blood pellet here and then just whack the shit out of him as much as I can, and then just get hit, then heal from hitting, then get hit, then heal from... You get the idea. Just hit it. Difficulty is 28 out of 100. I didn't forget him this time. If you don't know, on my every Dark Souls boss rank, I completely forgot about Yorm. I don't know why, but I just forgot. He was the only one I forgot, but I forgot about Yorm. And he is not that hard of a boss. In fact, he's pretty easy. In fact, he's probably my least favorite gimmick boss with the Storm Ruler, considering there is 4 of them, I think, technically now. There's Yorm, there's Storm King, then there's Rykard. Actually, there's only 3. You're going to want to charge up your sword and then unleash it. And you keep doing that over and over and over. He can hurt you, definitely, for some damage, and I have died to this boss, as you see, considering I didn't have to pick up the sword. I already did, because I died like an idiot. And he just goes down like a sack of potatoes, pretty much. Or he has fuck tons of health, but the Stormwheeler just cuts through it like butter. It's not that big of a deal. Just watch out, don't get too close to him, and you'll come out smelling like a rose. Difficulty is 29 out of 100. The Misbegotten Crusader is literally just Leonine Misbegotten, but with a Golden Order Greatsword. How the fuck did he get this? And it's pretty much the exact same moveset with a couple extra holy, like, AoE attacks. It's not that much more difficult, but it does do a lot more damage, but you are also further in the game, so it kind of offsets it. Difficulty is 29 out of 100. I kind of feel bad for this boss, but Maiden Estrella is going to be a one-hit kill boss, but you have an NPC guarding her, which I like to call Velstadt Light, who basically is going to be a kind of a bitch to get through. He has a lot of armor, a lot of poise, and a massive weapon. And if you try to just jump down, you're going to be eaten by little blood baby things that I don't know how to describe. But once you get up to her, you can just hit her in the face and kill her. I feel bad about this boss, but I don't know the entire story of Demon's Souls yet. That's the only game I really don't know the story for. And I kind of feel bad for her, but maybe she's evil. I don't know. Difficulty is 29 out of 100. Weirdly enough, the weaker of the two Dragonkin Soldier bosses has a title, which is like of Noxtella, which is strange that the one that is titled actually is easier. Dragonkin Soldier of Noxtella is a big fucking dragon guy, I guess, with normal human hands and just a dragon's face. He is a really unique boss, and I actually applaud this boss because it is kind of cool. He uses Frost Lightning, which is like icy lightning attacks, which do both damages to you, which is kind of cool, actually. I enjoy this boss, but the problem is he goes down really fast. And if you keep just on his ass, he literally cannot do anything almost. Difficulty is 29 out of 100. The Cleric Beast, I believe, is technically the first ever From Software boss I ever fought. Even though I didn't know that it was a From Software game, I fought the Cleric Beast first and I struggled hard on him. And I still kind of not great at the Cleric Beast, I guess. Mostly because I usually kill him on my first try. And then I kind of, because I never really have to do anything other than spam Molotov cocktails at him. I've never really learned his moveset. I just throw the Molotov cocktails. I've never tried to actually fight him legit. I don't know why. But I assume he's not that hard. He is really fast, and once he gets to low HP, he's going to get even faster and way more dangerous. That being said, once again, you could just trivialize this fight if you just throw Molotov cocktails at him, and he'll do nothing to stop you, and it does fuck tons of damage. He doesn't like fire. Difficulty 29 out of 100. Remember the Erdtree avatar? What if it was putrid? And by that, I mean it has scarlet rot everywhere. There's not much of a difference other than when it does its butt slam, it sprays like scarlet rot juice all over the place. And it's real easy to get scarlet rot out here. But as long as you don't get hit by that, it's the exact same boss pretty much. It can be a little bit more difficult with, you know, scarlet rot ticking your health down every 4 seconds. But it shouldn't be too much to manage because he's still kind of weak. Difficulty is 30 out of 100. The Omen Killer is a callback to the Capra Demon, I'm like 90% sure, considering they share like the exact same moveset. And this one can breathe fire. And there's dogs all over the place, which is very much like the Capra Demon, who we will get to in a little bit. The Omen Killer is, however, a lot easier because you're not restricted to the world's smallest boss arena, and the dogs don't inflict bleed. So you can just kind of kill the dogs before the boss even sees you, and then take on the boss alone. He does a lot of damage, and he does a ton of damage with the fire as well. But he has, like, for some reason, no poise whatsoever, so you can knock him down every 5 seconds. He also doesn't have a ton of health, so it's not a big deal. Difficulty is 30 out of 100. This boss is so close to being in my top 25. I would honestly say this is number 26. I really like Lady Butterfly because she doesn't fall into the trademark 4 different archetypes for normal FromSoft bosses, which are A, Knight Dude, B, Wise Old Man that is really strong, C, Monster of some sort, or D, Beautiful Young Woman with a monstrous power. Lady Butterfly is a really old woman that is extremely fast and like ninja-like, I guess would be a good way to put it. She has an incredibly fun back and forth combo thing you're gonna do, which is like a normal Sekiro thing, but hers I think is one of the best back and forths where she like will hit you with their leg in one direction, then switch to the next, then switch back, and then you're gonna get a different attack after the third one. It's really amazing, and I love it. She also has these wires she's gonna jump on and throw kunai at you from above, but you can knock her off it with pretty much anything. But it's really cool though. Once you kill her the first time, she's gonna pretty much respawn. And in the second phase, she's gonna start with this stupid like spirit thing, and which is like brings down the fight so much. If the spirits weren't in the fight, this would be so much better. Then she's gonna start throwing butterflies at you that do damage, and I'm pretty sure you can't block them. You kind of have to dodge them. And then it's just gonna pretty much be the exact same thing as the first phase. Other, she's gonna spawn the spirits every once in a while. I think you can use snapdragon seeds to get rid of them, but really it doesn't really matter. Just run around until they go away. Difficulty is 30 out of 100. Nox, Swordstress, and Monk are two motherfuckers that just like to be annoying. For some reason they have really bendy weapons. I don't know what the lore of that is, but they have bendy weapons, so if you think you're out of range of them, you're not. Honestly, the one with the Shodel or whatever it's called, the sword one, isn't that big of a deal, but the mace guy is kind of a pain in the ass, because he has like a bunch of attacks where he can like bake that thing huge and beat the shit out of you, or he can just slam it into the ground and do a AoE that has way bigger of a range than you think it does. Difficulty is, in fact, 31 out of 100. Deep under Leyndell, you're going to find this bastard. Eskar Priest of Blood really likes Mohg, and we'll get to Mohg, trust me. This guy basically has every Mohg spell, plus a couple of his own. He can throw blood on the ground that does damage, he can summon little bugs that for some reason do bleed damage to you, and he also has a bunch of little dogs that bleed you. This guy likes blood a lot. And he gets stronger when he bleeds you, which is really cool. But he is a bitch, he doesn't have a ton of health, and he's basically a normal NPC. The only danger is he can bleed you a lot. Difficulty is 32 out of 100. There he is. There's Vort. You knew he was coming sometime. Vort of the Boreal Valley starts out as a big, fat knight guy, kinda, with a mace. And he is going to be kinda normal. He will walk around on 4 legs, and it can be kinda dangerous. And he's gonna blow ice all over the place. But he's not too big of a deal. When he gets to his second phase, I have problems a lot with this for some reason. He's going to rampage really fast all around the map, and his entire body's a hitbox, and it can very well kill you very easily because it's early in the game. But he doesn't have that much health, and if you know what you're doing, it's not too big of a deal. Just stay away from his rushes and you should be fine. Difficulty is 32 out of 100. Hey, so fun fact, I've recorded every other boss for this entire video now, and I just came back while rewatching this to make sure everything was okay, and realized I didn't do a Tree Sentinel one for some reason. The Tree Sentinel is a dude on a horse with a big golden halberd you encounter very early in Elden Ring, and you probably die to it, and you probably need to come back to fight him later, unless you're Markiplier for some reason. He just brute forced this boss. And he has some very basic horse attacks. You know what to do here. And you're going to run into him 500 times. So you're going to learn this boss real well. Difficulty is 33 out of 100. Fine, I'll actually cover it this time. The Vagina Dragon here is a big-ass dragon with a really unique design. I'll give him that. But he's not all that tough, and he's technically optional too. You can kind of just leave him alone, which I like to do until the very, very end of the game. I don't know why, but I really don't like fighting him early. But if you do, he's going to be kind of a problem because he will do a good amount of damage, but it won't be too much to handle. You can also knock off his tail for an easier time and a free weapon. He can also like slam his chest mouth thing into the ground and run at you, which is actually pretty dangerous. It'll do a lot of damage. But other than that, he doesn't have a ton of health, and he doesn't do that much damage, to be honest. Difficulty is 33 out of 100. The second type of Erdtree monster you're gonna run into Elden Ring is the Ulcerated Tree Spirit. I fucking hate this thing. This might be on my bottom 10 least favorite bosses in the entire series, no joke. It's huge, it messes with your camera, it does a good amount of damage, and he has this huge holy AoE attack when he goes into his second phase that I always forget about and get clipped by because it's way too big. However though, he isn't the biggest deal in the world, he's just fucking annoying. He doesn't have a lot of health, and once you get him down to half health, he just kind of just walks around all over the fucking place. He doesn't do a ton of attacks, but if you're right up on him, he can't do much. Difficulty is 33 out of 100. This boss used to be a lot lower until I played this specific playthrough, when I realized there's some people that make this boss unbelievably unfun and really annoying. If you run into mages that beat this quest, they are going to be the ones that are going to be part of the Fierce Champion like guild thing here, and they will spam you with bullshit. And it's really annoying when you're doing melee. The Fierce Champions are going to be one guy who's going to spawn immediately. He's going to be able to go down real easy. The second guy who's going to be, I believe, Rogier, I don't know. But he is not that big of a deal. He has a couple like sword like magic things that I don't know the name of, where he like puts the swords on his shoulders. He goes down real easy. And then when there's 3-on-1, it's going to be 2 NPCs that were players that have already beaten this boss, and then some big roly-poly dude. The roly-poly dude, who fucking cares? But if you get 2 mages, which I got several times in a row, it's almost impossible, because they will just launch spells at you over and over to where you can't do a damn thing. It's really annoying. However, this is a very RNG-dependent boss. If you get 2 melee guys that won't do anything, it'll be simple. But I'm just putting it here because it's not easy, it's not hard. It can be pretty much either, though, I guess. Difficulty is 34 out of 100. The first of many, many Elden Ring dragon bosses, which are all going to be coming up. So these bosses I'm pretty much just going to lump together. When I get to the next one, I'll just be like, it's the same thing as Grail. So get ready for that. Flying Dragon Grail is on a bridge, and I put him lower than Agheel, who we'll get to in a minute, because he has very, very limited space to move, and he kind of can't do a ton when he can't go anywhere. Flying Dragon Grail is just a basic dragon boss, and he'll stomp on you. He has a very telegraphed tail swipe and a very telegraphed bite. You'll be able to do it pretty easily. The most annoying thing he does is he flies up in the air and breathes fire down at you, which I tell you to use the Pugzer tactic and run up and to the left, and it will miss you, like every single dragon in the From Software series. But he is not a big deal. He can do a fuck ton of damage, but he also is just a basic fucking dragon. Who cares? Difficulty is 34 out of 100. The Vanguard Demon's weird. I'm kind of making an exception here because this is a boss technically, but it's the first boss you run into in Demon Souls, and then you kind of just come back to and fight him later. It doesn't have a boss health bar, but I'm just going to count it. This is the only exception to the entire rule of the entire video, so deal with it. The Vanguard Demon is just a precursor to the Asylum Demon, pretty much, but he's a little bit tougher, definitely. He does way more fucking damage, and he's way chunkier. However, though, he has a very basic attack pattern, and you should be able to take him down pretty easily. He's also a fuck. That's it. He's a fuck. Difficulty is 34 out of 100. Get ready, because we are about to run into a huge line of just straight Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 bosses for the next like 10 or 15, so buckle up. Glintstone Dragon Adula, which is stupid, by the way, because Azula is the other one. Fuck the naming here. Is basically just a dragon that has glintstone sorceries. However, you're much further in the game now, so I put this one easier than Azula. Because Azula you come and fight pretty soon early in the game, and it can be kind of a problem. This one you should be easily of apt level to be able to deal with. She is just a big dragon that has glintstone sorcery. She can shoot like glintstone darts at you instead of fire breath, which is a little different from most dragons here. And she can have a giant sword instead of a tail swipe, which she like holds in her mouth and she like spins it around. It's kind of weird. It's not too much of a big deal. Just be really fast. It's a normal dragon boss. Difficulty is 35 out of 100. Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin, is my 20th favorite boss in the entirety of the From Software catalog. That might be crazy to some people, because I know not a lot of people like this boss, but I feel it's super underrated. Maybe I don't like the boss, but I like the character a lot, because he's the first like main character in a Dark Souls game that really makes you question, is it really better to just keep prolonging the current world as is, or can you just like let it go out and let the natural cycle take place? He gives you a huge monologue at the beginning of his fight and asks you what your answer is, and then he's going to fight you for some reason. Just to test you? Again, I guess? I don't know. But he has this really somber music in the background that doesn't work as well as some. You know who I'm talking about. But it's still there, and I feel like he is a really interesting boss because he is this huge, disgusting amalgamation, like, experimented on. And he really makes you think, is the world really so good as it is right now? Difficulty is 35 out of 100. Another one of those Elden Ring bosses with no sound. Once again, I apologize. Commander O'Neill used to be a lot higher, and I think I've gotten the hang of him quite a bit now. However, his brother will still get to. He's still really high up there. Commander O'Neill is a commander of an army, which is a really cool idea. He spawns like a bunch of like spirits to come and attack you. Your best bet is to just take them all out immediately, or leave one there so he doesn't spawn other ones coming up. But either way, he's annoying. He has this giant standard, which I actually really like. It's a really fun weapon that he's gonna like rally his troops with, and it's a really cool weapon. I enjoy this boss quite a bit. It's not in my top 25, but it might be in my top 50 if I really think about it. That being said, it's a very rhythmic boss. It really reminds me of a Sekiro boss, but instead of blocking, you're going to be dodging like back and forth. You can probably do it with your eyes closed. I think I mentioned that in the Elden Ring boss ranking. You can probably do this boss with your eyes closed with how rhythmic it is. But it's still going to be a challenge because he still does hurt pretty bad, and he catches you off guard depending on where you are in the story, and he might just insta-kill you if you're unlucky. Difficulty's 36 out of 100. I'm going to let you guess if this is another one of those Elden Ring bosses with no sound. I wonder. Royal Knight Loretta is going to be a big woman on a horse who's also a spirit summon, it would appear in this case. And she is a big magic and melee user at the same time, which is kind of unique. She is basically just a tree sentinel boss, really similar movesets, but she's a little bit more agile and she has a little bit more dexterity with that big ass fucking like war spear thing she has. And she can shoot magic all the time at you. And she can shoot magic arrows at you, which if they hit you, you die. Pretty much, there's no question about it. It doesn't matter how much health you have, you die if you get hit by the magic arrow. So dodge through it. Difficulty is 36 out of 100. I'm going to make this one quick for the sake of everybody's time. Glintstone Dragon Smaragd is literally the exact same boss as Glintstone Dragon Adula, only there's no sword spin attack, and it's in a way bigger area, so it's kind of more annoying. Difficulty is 36 out of 100. Yeah, I'm putting Flying Dragon Nagil above most of the other ones because you encounter him first, and you're more than likely going to encounter him very early in the entire game. So you're going to probably try to attempt him and beat your head against a wall while you can't do it. So that's why I'm putting him so high, compared to the other dragons at least. Agil is pretty normal dragon boss-ish, a lot like Grail, only he's in a massive fucking space and he can go anywhere he wants. Most of the time you're going to be running at this boss until you get him. That's why I put him higher than Grail, because he literally just won't stop moving. But he's pretty much the same exact boss. Difficulty is 36 out of 100. A really fun and unique gimmick boss with a hellish run back. The Executioner's Chariot is going to be in a donut-shaped arena, and you're going to want to keep running clockwise towards this little lever that it shows you in the cutscene at the beginning, to where you can break down a gate where this huge chariot that's been chasing you around the donut the whole time has been coming back and forth, trying to hit you. This gate will stop it in its tracks and knock it off the horse. Then you're going to get to fight the horse one-on-one after you get to there. However, getting there is no easy feat. You're going to have skeletons, witches, and a lot of other things trying to beat the shit out of you. And that chariot's going to keep going around and around the arena. So you're going to have to go into these little gapes in the walls so they can't hit you. You can roll through the wheels, I believe, but it's really hard to do and not worth it. But once you get it down to just you and the horse, it's not hard at all. Difficulty is 36 out of 100. Black Knife Assassin is regarded as one of the harder, like, basic bosses you're going to run into a shit ton. But I think he's not that big of a deal, and it's kind of a pushover if you know what you're doing. Just always stay on the defensive with this guy. Don't try to get in a cheeky hit here and there. Don't try to do anything stupid. Just wait for him to do this little jump in the air and stab the ground thing. He will be absolutely wide open for a backstab every single time, and sometimes even a subsequent hit. But just wait for it, and you could easily do this boss without getting hit. Just wait for that opportunity, and you'll be golden. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. A laughably pathetic final boss. Don't talk about Aldia, he's easier but he's cooler, don't at me. Nashandra here is going to be a big skeleton princess woman thing. I don't know what she is. But she has not that many attacks, and she kind of is a pushover for a final boss. She has a couple curse magic attacks, which would be really dangerous in Dark Souls 1 or 3, but it's not here. It'll just lower your health, barely. And she has some pretty dangerous scythe attacks, but she doesn't really do those that often. Sometimes she'll summon these big curse, like, clouds that you can just hit to knock away, which I didn't know until recently. And that's pretty much it. Just stay away from her really dangerous looking beam thing, which I've literally never been hit by, but I assume it hurts very, very badly. But she kind of just lets you kill her, honestly. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. Now for a boss way earlier in the game in Dark Souls 2. I think I made this exact same joke in my last video about Dark Souls. The Flexile Sentry are going to be conjoined twins of a knight. Really cool looking boss, and a really cool gimmick here is it's a normal fight, but if you take too long, the water rises and you're not going to be able to roll or do anything, which is kind of cool, and they've never done really a time limit since then, honestly. Which I guess it's not technically a time limit, but you're going to get fucked if you take too long. He's going to have two sides, one with like some kanobos, I guess. I don't know what the correct term for him is. And one with some swords. The sword guy can bleed you, but the Kanobo guy does way more fucking damage. Try to stay in between them by like attacking his side, which is something really weird because you usually want to be behind a boss, but attack the side of the boss for this one. But if you have to be facing one, try to be facing the sword guy. He does a lot less damage even though he can bleed you. Cool boss though. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. The first of the 3 magma worms we're going to be covering, Magma Worm Makar has a huge arena to his disadvantage, believe it or not. The bigger the arena for these bosses, the harder it is for them to kill you, because you have tons of space to walk around all the lava he's going to be spewing all over. When he gets hurt, he's going to use his big sword and spit lava on it, and he has massive shockwaves he can do when he slams it into the ground. But he's just pretty much a big lizard. He doesn't really do it too much. He's got some chunky fucking health, and that's why he's so high. He takes a lot of damage, but you shouldn't be dying to him probably here because of how much room you have. You should be perfectly fine. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. Oh boy, this boss. The Royal Rat Vanguard is going to be deep in the sewers of Majula. And they have a lot of rat statues all around. For some reason, I don't understand how the rats made those. However, it's just going to be a shit ton of rats. Keep spawning and spawning and spawning. Actually, they spawn endlessly until you kill enough. And then it's going to spawn a bigger rat with a mohawk. This one can poison you for some reason. However, the other ones can petrify you. And petrification is an instant kill. So I don't know why the worst status effect is on the rats that you kill at the beginning. And the actual boss itself has a shitty status effect. It might be toxic, not poison. But either way, it's not as bad as petrification. This boss is strange. It's one of the weirder bosses in the series, I think. I don't understand why I have to fight 5,000 rats. I don't understand why the boss rat has a mohawk. I don't understand how the statues got there. And I don't understand why weapon keeps hitting them for some reason. I am very confused and kind of aroused. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. I hate this boss. On our list of bosses that are most annoying in the series, this is pretty damn near the top. Wormface is just going to be this little punched over man with worms on his face, believe it or not, in front of the minor Erdtree and Leyndell. He is a pushover, except for 2 things. Number 1, he has a bear hug attack that if you don't have like a really good amount of health, just instant kills you. And he does it over and over and over and over again. And there is a good chance, even if you dodge like the first 3, he'll get caught in the 4th one because fuck you, I guess. His other annoying thing is he has Death Blight everywhere. And remember how we talked about petrification in the Royal Rat Vanguard? It's like that. You just instantly die if you get Death Blighted. And he has so much of it all around him. His attacks do no fucking damage except for those 2 things. And he's just a bitch. I hate this guy. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. Real quick one here. The Magma Worm is just Magma Worm Makar in a very small room. So it's a little bit more difficult because you don't have that much room to maneuver around him. And that ends that huge line of Elden Ring and Dark Souls 2 bosses. Now we get to continue on to some more. Finally. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. The One Reborn's cooler brother, the Tower Knight, is at number 140. Now, there's an achievement if you fight this guy without killing all the archers shooting at you, but I don't give a shit, so just kill him. It makes things way easier, especially if you did this really early like I did. Doing this boss blind, I could figure it out pretty easily. Every boss you see me do in Demon Souls was completely blind, so you should be able to figure out what to do here alone. There's only one boss that gave me trouble because I couldn't figure out what to do, and we'll get to that later. The Tower Knight is going to have some very exposed ankles. If you knock off the armor plates on his legs, you can break his fucking ankles, and then he's going to fall, and then you can do fuck tons of damage to his head. Don't get discouraged if you're not doing a lot of damage to his legs. You're not going to do a ton. But basically, the strat here is kill the archers, then ankle bite. And then once he falls, hit his head. It's as easy as that. Difficulty is 37 out of 100. Finally, the last of the worms. This one has a kind of a give and take. It is a lot harder because it does so much damage and can pretty much one-shot you with certain attacks. However, you can cheese this very, very easily, and it's very funny. If you run and you try to grab the lobsters and the other mobs that are right in front of this boss, they're going to all attack the boss with you. And on rare occasions, you can just sit back and let them kill it, because they do so much damage in this area, and they just won't even attack you, which is really funny. If this little cheese didn't exist, I would put it a lot higher, but because it's funny and so easy to do, it's gonna get a 37 out of 100. Excuse my voice if it sounds a little weird. I just got finished watching The Last of Us, Episode 3, and I was crying. You are welcome. That's right, man. Don't be afraid to show your emotions. Don't take into account the fact that I've been single the past 2 years. What were we talking about? The Penetrator is a really fucking big dude with some really fucking cool armor, and a very apt name considering he stabs people, not the other way. He's got some basic combos, and he does have some dangerous attacks that definitely do a shit ton of damage. Considering this is the third to final boss in Demon's Souls, technically the second if you really even count True King Lant as a boss. And he lives up to his name, as he will try to stab you. And you can get his armor apparently too. I don't know how the hell that works. But he is a dangerous motherfucker until you realize he's unbelievably slow. The only reason he's here is because he has a chunky health bar and he looks fucking awesome. But I walked into this fight being extremely scared that this is going to be very hard, and it ended up not being that bad. Difficulty is 38 out of 100. The Lost Sinner is a very, very basic knight boss. Big woman with sword, because it apparently is a woman. And she is very dexterous with it. She swings it around like guts. It's really cool, and I enjoy this boss. I don't think it's in my top 25, but it's still a pretty cool boss. The Lost Sinner is going to fling that sword around, and if you don't have the torch on, or if you didn't light the torches before you came in here, she can break your lock on, which is very unique to this boss, and I kind of find that interesting. However, she's kind of slow, and you can easily learn the timing of this boss pretty easily. It's not that big of a deal. However, if you do get hit, it's going to hurt a little bit. That's for sure. And then the walk back is a huge pain in the ass, as you have to go down an elevator and fight several Flexile sentries. Very fun stuff. Difficulty is 38 out of 100. Sir Gideon Ofnir the All-Knowing, which has a very long name, is also one of the final bosses in Elden Ring, which is weird because most final bosses in Elden Ring are like really fucking hard, and he is not. I mean, he can be, but like not really, honestly. He's got a lot of magic stuff that he can pull out, and a lot of holy stuff he can pull out too, which can be really annoying. He can use Melania's thing, he can use Mohg's thing, as long as you've been to those two locations. And he's just kind of a dick, honestly. If he uses all the sword phalanx spells on you, you might be dead if you get hit by one, because it's going to stun you into the other ones, which will hurt pretty bad. He also has a really unique spell that I don't know if it's actually unique or not, but whatever. I don't remember what it's called. I believe it's called the Law of Causality or something like that, which is really unique. And if you hit him enough times, if you see a little ring in him, it'll reflect back onto you on a certain attack after it breaks. And it does fuck tons of damage. If you get up on him and you start comboing him, he's not going to be able to get out of it. All he knows is magic. He's not going to be able to handle you close up. So as long as you're on him like white on rice, you should be fine. Difficulty is 38 out of 100. Coincidentally, in the exact same boss arena, I didn't even plan it like that, I was just ranking bosses, I completely forgot they were in the same arena, is Godfrey the First Elden Lord, who's basically just a spirit summon of the real Godfrey, who will come much later in this list. This guy has a big ol' axe, and he is really fast with it, surprisingly. He also has some stomp attacks that can interrupt a lot of the stuff you do, which can be a huge pain in the ass. And also, he is really dangerous as long as you're in between a specific area. Like, if you're further than, like, maybe, like, 2 meters away from him, you should be okay. And if you're closer than, like, 1 meter away from him, you also should be okay. I know that sounds really weird, but the closest you can be to him is the safest you can be. He swings that axe all around like it's weightless, and he also can do some extremely fast, like, jumping and throwing attacks with it as well. But if you're right up on him, he usually won't do those giant throwing attacks, and it is really easy to dodge his attacks when you're really close to him. You gotta be rolling every direction possible when you're on with this guy. It's like a dance, kind of. Difficulty is 39 out of 100. Strangely, this boss is the exact opposite of Magnawar Makar, as him being in a smaller space makes him a little bit easier, actually. Because if he had full room to maneuver, he would have a lot more dangerous things up his sleeve. But the Falling Star Beast here is just a big, fluffy, weird, cute thing, I don't know what to call it, alien, I guess, that has big pincers and a lot of lightning and gravity magic. He has a really tough exterior, so if you're trying to, like, bleed him or something, aim for his head or his butthole, because those are the only furry parts of him, and I believe it's the only parts that can bleed. I don't even know if you can bleed him, to be honest, but it seems like you can. He has some rushing attacks that are kind of dangerous, but they're not as bad as they could be because he doesn't have a full range of motion here and he turns around a lot in here. He also has some weird Sigma alt type things from Overwatch where he like lifts you up into the air and then slams you into the ground. He also like makes spikes come out of the ground and stab your ass. I don't know. It's a very strange boss, and depending on when you come here, it can be very easy or very hard. So I'm kind of putting it kind of in the middle, but it's not like super hard, so I didn't put it like really high in the middle. You get what I'm saying. Difficulty is 39 out of 100. The last Elden Ring boss for actually quite a few entries is Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon. Finally, a really fun magic-based boss. This boss is a really strange mix of two other bosses from previous games. It is a very strange mix of both Deacons of the Deep and the Fool's Idol, who we will get to pretty soon. It's going to start out where she has a singular singing child that you have to kill. I'll let that sit there for a moment. And keep doing that over and over until she breaks her bubble and she falls to the ground. You beat her up and then you repeat. Sometimes the children are like in a really weird place and you have to like walk around some bookcases, but if you use your sound, you can hear them pretty easily where they're coming from. Once you pop her bubble enough times and kill her for her first health bar, she'll become the second phase, which is a way more dangerous phase. And this is the really cool magic phase. She's going to start with Comet Azure every time, I believe. At least I don't think I've ever had an attempt where she didn't start with it. Which you need to immediately dodge to the left or the right as soon as she starts that attack, because you might get caught in it and just straight die. Which is fun. And then reset the first phase as well. So, haha. She also has a lot of glintstone magic, such as just like the shard one where she like sprays shards at you. If you're right up on her, it can do fuck tons of damage. She can make little wisps that lazily float around and then just run at you really fast. She also can spirit summon, which is very unique compared to like almost every other boss except for the spirit collar snail. She can actually summon spirits just like you, so it's kind of an even fight if you do that kind of thing, which I don't think I've ever summoned a spirit in my entire life, and except for maybe on my first playthrough. And she can summon some wolves, Bloodhound Knight Darewell, who's here for some unknown reason, a Stone Digger Troll, or just a fucking dragon, because haha. And honestly, what I like to do is just ignore the spirits entirely and just keep attacking Rennala. If you get up on her, you can do shit tons of damage until she inevitably just like kind of bounces away. It can be kind of hard the first time you try it, but once you do it once, you're going to be able to do it every time pretty easily. Difficulty is 39 out of 100. Don't. Don't make me do this to you, damn it! Do you like my voice acting there? Great Grey Wolf Sif has a very emotional story and is probably one of the saddest, if not the very saddest boss in the entire From Software catalog. Great Grey Wolf Sif remembers you from the past. Wait, why does this sound familiar? From when you saved her, and you get a special cutscene if you do the entire DLC before you do this fight, which I had never seen it, and it is actually a lot sadder than the original one, because she'll remember you, and she'll pretty much still have to fight her for her master. It's very sad. Great Grey Wolf Sif has one thing that puts her this high for me. If this wasn't in the game, I would put her a lot lower. I used to be a shield bitch for a long time for Dark Souls, and she chews fucking shields up. If you try to block anything from Sif, it's gonna break your guard and you're gonna be fucking dead. It's awesome. And I think this boss actually kind of taught me not to use it a little bit. But if you just stay under her, you can pretty much guarantee a victory. Don't try to block her attacks. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Once she gets to about maybe 25% health, maybe it's 10%, I don't really know, she's going to start limping and make the fight way, way easier. So if you can get to about that much health, you guarantee a victory pretty much. It's really sad, and she starts whimpering and stuff. It's really sad. As a dog lover myself, it is a very sad boss. How many times can I say it's sad? So the emotional damage is a little bit, elevates this boss just a little bit. Difficulty is 39 out of 100. Can someone say fucking overhype? I remember when I first started playing Dark Souls 1, I remember looking up like the hardest bosses in the catalog to see which ones I would have to think of when I was going for them. And I distinctly remember Flame Lurker being on there once, on one of the lists. So I always remembered that Flame Lurker was in Demon Souls and it was going to be the hardest boss in the game. What? It's like the most standard From Software boss ever, which is different for Demon Souls because most of the bosses are gimmick fights. But he is like the most standard From Software boss ever. Maybe it's just because I've played every other game before Demon Souls. But Flame Lurker's not hard. He's harder than most bosses in Demon Souls, don't get me wrong, but that's not saying much. He has just very basic combos, and sometimes it's got some wonky hitboxes, and he also leaves fire on the ground that if you step in it, it hurts sometimes. But that's like all that's different, really. He doesn't do that many different things. He has a little bit of some DPS on him, but he's really slow, so it's not that big of a deal. I believe I've also seen him on the best From Software bosses list, and that's also just plain incorrect. I don't know what to say. He's okay, I guess. Difficulty's 40 out of 100. I want to say this was one of the first bosses I had a lot of trouble with in any Souls game. The Bell Gargoyles are going to be pretty much your first roadblock in Dark Souls 1. These guys aren't, hard by any means, but they are definitely not easy, especially if this is your first Souls game and this is at near the beginning of the game. The first one's going to come down at the beginning of the fight, and he's going to be a pain in the ass. He is going to swing his tail at you, his axe all over, and he does a lot of damage. If you knock his tail off, though, the fight becomes a little bit easier, and you get a free axe or halberd or something, I don't know. See, I wasn't having trouble with that part. The part I was having trouble with is when the second gargoyle comes down at about 50% health of the first one, and then you have to tag team him, and this is my first gank, despite that one time in the alley in New Orleans. The second one will then start to breathe fire, and then I believe the first one also starts to breathe fire. I'm not 100% on that one, though. And it becomes a little harder, but take out one, and then the second one, it should be cake. Difficulty is 40 out of 100. Well, who is that right there? Am I right, boys? Scorpioness Najka is just a very annoying version of Quelaag, who we will get to pretty soon. And she's just going to be a woman with a scorpion body. Yep. I've had dreams like this before. She has some really fucking annoying toxic attacks that if you get hit by, you can just kiss your fucking run, be goodbye, pretty much. And also her stingers have like this very specific attack. If you walk in a specific distance away from her, you can get her to like get both of her stingers on the ground, then you can attack them and knock them off. But honestly, I don't try to knock him off because it's a huge opportunity to do damage there. So try to like hit her and then only do 1 or 2 hits on the stingers, that way they don't fall off. And then when she goes underground, you're going to want to stand on any stone you see on the map, and then you will be safe from her doing the tremor thing where she just comes out of the sand. It's very interesting. I enjoy this boss actually quite a bit, and I had quite a lot of trouble with this the first time I played this boss. Difficulty is 40 out of 100. I only died to 1 or 2 bosses on my very first playthrough of Demon's Souls, probably because it was the last Souls game I played. This was one of them. I didn't get the gimmick at first that he is blind, so if you're really quiet and you only like walk when he's like really far away from you, you're pretty safe, honestly. However, there is a caveat to that. If he sees you, okay, I should say if he hears you. If he hears you and he hits you, you're gonna probably die. Because the dude hits like a fucking truck. He is not very tanky, however. And if you know what you're doing, this boss isn't that bad. I'm putting him this high for the sake of how much damage he can do if you're fucking stupid like I am. Difficulty's 40 out of 100. I don't remember what boss it was, but remember how I mentioned how if there was a list of the most annoying bosses, they would be at the top? I lied. This would probably be number 1. On your first playthrough, this boss is a fucking nightmare, no pun intended. Micolash is a fucking annoying little twat. You're gonna be chasing him for 90% of this boss fight, and if you don't know where you're going, you might as well just be sitting on your own hand, because you're not gonna get anywhere. So I recommend looking up a guide on this one. I had to, because fuck me, this boss sucks. And once you take him out the first time, he's gonna start talking to you over and over and over again. And he has a line of dialogue that repeats, so just spam the fucking X button until you get through it every single time. He puts it on repeat every 20 seconds. And then my favorite part is, once you beat him the first time, when you get him to about half health, he goes and runs away again. And that's when he starts talking to you. And once he does the stupid little mirror tricks, and you corner him one more time, you're gonna get to fight him a second time. And the best part of this entire fight is whenever he feels like it, he can just use a Call Beyond, which is the magic spell where he like puts his hands up and puts a bunch of little fucking astral projectiles all over. It could just end your fucking run right there. Cause fuck you, I guess. I know there's a way to actually cheese this boss if you like walk out at the right time or something like that, but I'm doing this like as if you know if you're doing it the right way. That being said, if he doesn't use a Call Beyond, you can kind of stun lock him and kill him pretty easily, but god is he annoying. Difficulty's 40 out of 100. An absolutely beautiful boss. Storm King is basically the first iteration of the Storm Rider. I mean the Storm Ruler. You're gonna want to pick it up at the bottom of this little like crag-filled area, which is really cool looking. All while his children are shooting little projectiles at you. I assume they're his children. And then you get to knock all of his children out of the sky with that Storm Ruler. Ain't that fun? The only reason this boss isn't higher is because of this next part right here. When you charge up the Storm Ruler and you launch it at him, sometimes it just misses, I guess, even though it's like right on him. I don't understand how that works. Because sometimes I'm right under him and it'll miss, and sometimes I'm like 40 million yards away and it'll hit. I don't get how it works. This entire time you're going to be dodging little green darts that keep flying out of the sky. Apparently these were really hard to see in the original PS3 version. But they're kind of easy to see in the PS5 version, so there's that, I guess. And I also used the Storm Ruler for almost every single boss after this. But Pugzer, did you know that the Storm Ruler has a very low durability? I'm very well aware. But this boss is beautiful. I love the arena of this boss especially. It's one of my favorites. Difficulty is 40 out of 100. Alright, look, a spider boss. The Duke's dear Freya is the spider boss of Dark Souls 2, because every game has one. And she, I think it's a she, has 2 faces, one on her butt and one on her face. I also have this. She's going to have a fuck ton of little annoying spiders, so bring a torch and light it right before you get into the boss arena. It'll make things so much more easier. Even if you're a two-hander, honestly, just find a different weapon and then use a torch, because it's not worth it trying to two-hand a weapon and have 50 billion spiders trying to attack you at the same time. If it's just you and her, it's not too bad. She can do a little bit of damage with her mandibles, and she has a laser, because all spiders have lasers. And if you really want to during her laser, you can walk up to her butthole and then attack that head instead. And then her heads will switch to that head. I don't know how this works. She doesn't have that much health, like, at all. But don't focus one head too hard, because it'll break, I guess. And then you have to deal with the one head for the rest of the match. I would assume this boss would be a lot higher if you don't use a torch, but I always use a torch, so just use a torch. Difficulty's 41 out of 100. Oh, hey, look, a spider boss. Armor Spider is the spider boss of Demon's Souls, because every game has one. However, I put it a little bit higher than Duke's Dear Freya, because he's a little bit more dangerous, I'd say. Barely. Only because of one attack where he spits lava all over the arena, and if you were previously hit by his spider web, you're pretty much fucked, because you can't do anything about it. You can't run fast enough to the back of the arena to keep up with it. Honestly, if you ever get spiderwebbed, you're pretty fucked. But he doesn't do it that often, and it's pretty easy to dodge, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Either way, try not to be hit by the spiderweb, or walk into the spiderwebs, because I've done that too. His weak spot is his spider penis. That's something I just said. And he goes down pretty fast. I came here very, very early on in the game, and he wasn't that big of a deal to me. But he definitely does some fucking damage, that's for sure. Difficulty is 41 out of 100. I believe I said the exact same thing in the Dark Souls boss ranking here. This boss is either moderately easy or one of the hardest bosses in the entire series. Because if you don't do a very specific task of burning the windmill outside of this boss arena, this boss is nearly unkillable. Because there will be poison all over the arena and you're going to get poisoned, and B, she's going to be healed by that poison. Because hee. But if you burn the windmill, all the poison is drained, and the only way she can get healed and you can get poisoned is if you step in the outer ring of the arena, which makes things a whole lot easier. Other than that, she has just basic spear attacks that she can, like, launch at you. And she also has this, like, soul arrow attack that actually is kind of annoying to deal with. She can also throw her head on the ground and then dive after it for some reason. But her attacks do a little bit of damage, and it's kind of annoying when she goes and just won't get out of the poison and keeps healing her. It's just a kind of a rough boss, I guess. Difficulty's 42 out of 100. Capra Demon here is really annoying, and remember the Omen Killer? It's pretty much the exact same moveset. The Capra Demon here is in an extremely tight quarters arena, with dogs that bleed you. So that makes this fight a little bit more annoying. It's not necessarily hard, it's just a pain in the ass, because you're either going to die in 5 seconds to the dogs, or you're going to be able to get away from him, get on top of this little arch in the background, and then plunging attack the Capra Demon for half a health bar. Or he's a boss that becomes an enemy later on, go figure. Difficulty here is 42 out of 100. This is probably too high for a lot of people's lists here, but I also don't do the little strat where you just run all the way back and one-shot him. I actually fight him like, I don't want to say legit, but like the right way, I guess. Once you pick up this gold trimmed stuff, I don't know how it's gold at all. It's just literally gray. He is going to get very, very pissed at you because it's his sister or something like that. I don't know the lore really of this guy. And he's going to, like, wave his arms all over the place, blow fire all over the place and everything. When he waves his arms and hits the ground with them, though, you have a massive opportunity to do fuck tons of damage to him. However, though, he can be kind of annoying and get you in a cycle of he hits you, you gotta heal, and then so you get hit again while you're healing. But if you kind of just brute force this one, it shouldn't be too hard. Just don't stand right in the open when he's very clearly about to do an attack and you should be fine. Difficulty's 42 out of 100. The Living Failures also might be a little high for some people here. I would agree that it's not as high as I put it, except for one thing. Once they go into phase 2, I guess, once they get to about half health or about 3/4 health or something like that, they have this move where they all put their hands in the sky, and then they summon just fuck tons of meteors that just land on you, and really actually might just kill you. Like, sometimes you just can't get away from it. You're just fucked. You can't do anything about it. But to actually describe the boss, once you get in there, you're going to fight this weird little guy that, like, Lady Maria was experimenting on or something. And then after you kill him, another one's going to spawn. And then you're going to try to fight him, and then while you're fighting him, another one spawns. And then it keeps going and going and going, and there's going to be, like, fuck tons of them. And then they're going to do that attack where they all put their hands up, and you might get killed by the random darkness meteor thing. I don't know. But honestly, they don't have a ton of health either. You can pretty much knock them out pretty easily. Just be really careful for that meteor attack. Difficulty is 42 out of 100. Scary in looks and not much else. The Moon Presence here is a kind of a pathetic final boss, unfortunately. And he's actually a secret final boss like Aldia, so that makes it kind of even worse. He is really not that good at much. He has one attack that like makes people freak the fuck out where he just drains your entire health bar. But it's Bloodborne, so if you just stay calm and just attack him after you get drained where he won't even do anything, he'll just stand there, you can actually just get your entire health bar back. And you do fuck tons of damage. Just straight hurts it. It doesn't even help it, like at all. The only way this attack is good for it is if the person that's playing the game doesn't know what they're doing. Because it literally just makes the fight easier. It's going to drain your entire health bar and just attack it. And you get your entire health bar back and you hurt it a fuck ton. It's great. It's a win-win. I have never died to this boss. This boss is pretty easy, honestly. But she can do a lot of damage, I guess, other than her little, like, drain attack. But it's honestly not a big deal. Difficulty is 42 out of 100. By far the hardest basic boss you're going to run into a shit ton of times in Elden Ring. The Crucible Knight is a really scary son of a bitch. You can run into this guy almost immediately if you find it soon enough. And if you try when you first get out of the gate, you're going to die, like, a lot. He is really fucking hard for a really early game boss. However, you do run into him a shit ton of times, and once you get your bearings straight, you should be perfectly okay, and you should be able to take him out with medium difficulty, usually. The Crucible Knight is a big fucking knight with a big-ass sword and a big shield that really pisses me off a lot. The sword has unbelievable range, and the shield, he has a really long-winded wind-up attack that always catches me off guard, and it hurts a lot. And then when he gets low, he starts doing dragon aspect stuff, where he, like, grows wings and flies at you, or he can, like, breathe fire on certain occasions on certain of them. It's really annoying. This guy is no joke, and sometimes you're gonna have to fight two at once, or one with the Crucible Knight, or one with a Misbegotten Warrior. He can be a bitch. Difficulty is 42 out of 100. Man, Dark Souls 2 kind of sucks, but man, they know how to do a good night boss every once in a while. The Pursuer here is someone you're going to run into a lot in Dark Souls 2, that's for sure. He is going to do his job, which is pursue you very well. Even after you beat the shit out of him the first time as a boss, he's going to keep coming back for you. He doesn't care, he's keeping going. He's doing his job. The Pursuer is a fairly simple boss, but if you get hit, it's fucking over. He hits like a truck. Go figure. But he has the most basic combo possible. But man, is he fucking cool. And he can curse you with the sword, which doesn't matter because it's Dark Souls 2. He just looks really cool, and I really love his moveset. You can also trivialize this fight if you want to hit him with the crossbow thing, but I'm not a bitch. Difficulty is 42 out of 100. In stark contrast to the Pursuer, a really fucking cool looking boss that is awful. The Dragon God might be one of my least favorite bosses in the series, and that's kind of saying something. This entire boss is just fucking waiting. If he sees you, he's gonna hit you with a big-ass fucking attack that's gonna take shit tons of your health. And if you don't have, like, a fuck ton of vitality like I do all the time, it's probably just gonna kill you. You just basically have to hit a piece of rubble, then run away for a minute and wait till he doesn't see you. Then do it again, and again, and again, and again. Eventually, you're gonna get to a crossbow, which is weird that this is right after the Pursuer, and you're gonna shoot him in the shoulder, which he'll get upset about, but not do much else about it. Then, guess what? You get to do the same exact thing again. Run to cover, hit some rubble. Run to cover, hit some rubble. Run to cover, hit some rubble. Then you hit him with another one of those crossbows. And then you get to finish this entire fight off by beating the shit out of his head penis until he dies. This boss isn't very good, but he looks cool, I guess, so he gets a pass. Difficulty is 42 out of 100. Jeez, the Rotten is right. This guy is rotten. Who wrote the script? Oh, wait, I did. The Rotten is really cool because my friend Quentin was actually cast to play the Rotten in Dark Souls 2. That's great. Everyone comment, thanks Quentin for playing the Rotten in Dark Souls 2 in the comments. The Rotten here is kind of disgusting. I don't know what's wrong with him, honestly, but he's just an amalgamation of bodies, and he's kind of a dickhead. He has this big cleaver that can do a good amount of damage, but he winds it up forever, so it kind of is easy to dodge. He can also eat you for some reason. I don't know how that works, but he can, even though he's just a bunch of bodies, whatever. You can also knock his arms off, I guess. I heard somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure it is. But I've never seen it, but it'll make the fight a lot easier, I suppose. Other than that, he isn't that big of a deal. Other than the fire that's all over, you might step in and get fucked by the damage by it. Also, I know I mentioned this in the Dark Souls tier list, but how fucking hard is it to find the exit to his arena after you kill him? I don't know why. Every single time it takes me like a good minute of searching for the fucking doorway, because it's like covered in smoke from the fire. Difficulty is 43 out of 100. Apparently you can get age restricted from showing the cutscene to this battle, which is fucking stupid, by the way. Her boobs are covered by her hair, guys. It's fine. The Chaos Witch Quelaag here, first of all, is hot. Second of all, she does a actual good amount of damage. She has a really dangerous AoE, so if it looks like she's about to like do a big explosion thing, it's really imperative that you run away from this, because it actually will probably kill you. She also can belch fire on the ground all over, which actually like limits where you can walk, which is kind of interesting. It's like an ever-evolving arena before Freed was a thing. It's a really cool idea, and I really enjoy this boss quite a lot. She also has this sword that if you're directly in front of her, actually does a fuck ton of damage, so you should be careful about that. However, she doesn't have a lot of health, but she has a fuck ton of damage, but just no health. So that's why she's this low, quote unquote. We're kind of like halfway through. Difficulty is 43 out of 100. The Abductor versions are kind of annoying, and we actually have footage this time, unlike the Elden Ring boss ranking, where I just randomly threw in a clip of me playing CSGO. The Abductor versions can be kind of a handful, actually. You know those, like, walking, like, Iron Maidens that are just, like, walking around all over, like, Ray Lucaria and Rykard's area? Yeah, try fighting two of them at once with two different weapons, one of which has, like, scythes and one of which has, like, wheels. This fight can be a big handful, but if you can kind of, like, isolate them and just hit one every once in a while and then dodge for a little bit, then keep doing it, it'll be pretty easy. Also, if you come here really late in the game, it's also pretty easily as well. However, they do hit really hard, and they can definitely, like, 1-2 combo you pretty good, and it can be kind of annoying. But just come here a little later than you think you should, and you can take them out pretty easily. Difficulty is 43 out of 100. Cool looking and not much else. The Centipede Demon here is kind of annoying because you have this tiny little itty-bitty platform that you get to just stand on and wait for him to attack you. And then once he does, you can knock off one of his arms and you'll get the orange ring. I don't remember what orange ring it is, but I'm just going to say the orange ring. The orange ring will allow you to be able to stand on lava, and then you can actually go and fight him. But the annoying part of this fight is you just have to kind of sit there and wait for him to do that. And also, if he starts walking over to you, your camera's going to get all wonky, and it's real annoying. Honestly, the worst part of this fight is just waiting for him to do the right attack to be able to hit him. But if he doesn't, you're just going to be standing there forever and ever and ever, and you might just get clipped and die on accident. It's a fucking pain in the ass. Difficulty is 43 out of 100. The Red Wolf of Radagon is actually the boss you fight right before you fight Renala, and is actually quite a bit harder, surprisingly, for a boss that comes right before it. The Red Wolf of Radagon has a shit ton of magic attacks that do so much damage, and also you're in the tiniest room, like, possibly conceived for this fucking fight for some reason. And he jumps all around, he, like, swings his, like, fire sword at you. You have, like, no room. The saving grace here is, though, he also takes absolutely shit tons of damage. The fight's going to last probably 5 seconds, and one of you is going to be left standing, and it's probably not going to be you the first couple times you do this fight. Difficulty is 44 out of 100. Another boss with no audio, you are welcome, is the Godskin Apostle, which is the first half of the Godskin duo. The Godskin Apostle is just this big, lanky motherfucker that has a lot of black flame magic and a really long twin blade. He does a lot of damage, and he doesn't take that much, honestly, but he leaves himself wide open pretty often. However, you have to take that opportunity whenever you see it, or he's going to rail you in the asshole. When he gets to about half health, he's going to do this weird stretchy shit that I don't understand how it works. But he's going to, like, stretch his body, and he can, like, do this, like, windmill attack with his twin blade that can do a lot of damage. It's a big AoE black flame attack. It's really dangerous. However, this one isn't too big of a deal, honestly. Once you're in Lanedale, you should be able to take out the Godskin Apostle pretty easily. You should have a decent grasp on your build at this point, and you should be able to take him out fairly easily with medium difficulty is 44 out of 100. Finally, a decently fun boss after a huge drought of really boring ones. Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, is going to start out as the Great Serpent. And he is going to be kind of intimidating. He's going to look like a giant fist surrounded by lava in the center of the arena. I just actually made a fist as if you could see it. And he has some dangerous attacks where he's going to like swipe the entire arena. He's going to try to eat you and shit, which does a slight amount of damage for some reason. It doesn't do all that much. But this is another one of those fights where you have a Storm Ruler, where you're going to use giant wind attacks, and it's going to be a gimmick fight. But it's an actually fun gimmick fight for once. My strategy here is to jump and heavy attack over and over and over, and it does fuck tons of damage, and it doesn't take too much of your stamina up. And he kind of just staggers for most of it, so you're probably all good on that. When he gets to actually become Rykard Lord of Blasphemy, it becomes quite a bit harder, honestly. He's going to have these, like, swiping attacks with his Blasphemous Blade that, like, explode after a few seconds. That actually can catch you off guard pretty easily. He also has this DM attack where he's going to, like, summon a bunch of skulls and then still do all the swipe attacks and serpent attacks. People usually panic the fuck when this happens, but just don't, Forehead, I guess is the best thing I can say. It's not dangerous at all. The skulls are, like, a scary thing that you see moving towards you, but if they hit you, they don't do anything for a few seconds. Like, they explode, but it takes a few seconds, which if you're constantly moving, they won't hit you anyway. It's just... Don't be intimidated by him. Just pretend he's an easy boss, and he will be an easy boss. It's mind over matter with this dude. Difficulty is 44 out of 100. Fun fact about this boss, I didn't even know you could actually fully fight this boss until my second to last playthrough. Because I thought he just appeared on the Erdtree Grazing Hill and then just disappeared forever as like a hint of what's going to happen when you get to Farum Azula. But you actually can fight him if you go near the capital. I didn't know that. Ancient Dragon Lanciax is going to really love his fucking red lightning. His like dragon lightning or whatever it's called. The Pulsidisax lightning. I don't know. He's going to be a basic dragon boss kind of. However, he has that just constant fucking lightning striking you. It's really a big pain in the ass. He also has these like a huge like dragon lance attack where he like shoves fucking red lightning into the ground and like spreads all over the place, and it can actually catch you off guard and do fuck tons of damage if you're not careful. In my randomizer series, which I am actually streaming right now, I don't know if I'll still be streaming it when this video goes up, probably not, but I kept running into this bastard over and over and over. I don't know why, but he appeared a lot. Ancient Dragon Lanciax is just kind of a slightly above average dragon boss. That's all I can say about it. Difficulty's 44 out of 100. Dark Souls 2 has some really, really good night bosses, and I'm just kind of now noticing it, honestly. Velstadt the Royal Aegis, or Aegis, whatever, is a big old dude with an arrow on his head, and it's really, really cool. Not like the Avatar. His weapon is super unique and something I really love when they do like really unique weapons in Souls. He has a giant bell that he likes to like slam onto the ground and it rings. It's really cool. I really enjoy this boss. He also has some like darkness magic that can do a shit ton of damage, and also when he gets to about half health he'll buff himself, so that's a great little thing that can happen. Velstadt is guarding his master, who you will not get to fight for another fucking 45 hours, and he's just overall kind of a cool boss. I enjoy Velstadt quite a bit, and he's actually not really necessarily a pushover, quote unquote, so it's kind of fun. Difficulty's 44 out of 100. The old Demon King is the last of his kind, and man does he put up a fucking fight. This guy reminds me of a grizzled old warrior on his last legs. He does a lot of fire and pyromancy attacks, and he also has like got a big old hammer that he likes to slam into the ground. He also has this like ring of fire attack that like goes all the way out and then sucks back in. It's a really cool attack. And then my favorite part of this entire fight is he gives one last push to kill you when he's really almost dead, and he does this huge explosion that has a huge phantom range on it that does a lot of damage. And that's like it. He will pretty much no longer fight after that. That's like his last attempt to kill you. And it's a huge, cool, big hurrah right before he died. Difficulty is 45 out of 100. The Iron Golem I'm putting here for posterity's sake, because this guy gave me so much trouble on my first playthrough and really just hasn't since. The Iron Golem, I believe, always starts the fight off with a huge like wind blade attack where he like does a huge shockwave towards you. And it used to catch me off guard every single time I did it, and it pisses me off. But honestly, it doesn't really do much if you just, like, roll around it. Sometimes it even hits the, like, big mound of stuff in front of you, and it doesn't do anything. He also is really weak in the knees, which is kind of funny. If you attack a single leg for, like, half the fight, you will, like, make him stumble, and he can fall off the edge and just instant kill himself, which is very funny. However, that goes for you, too. He has a tendency to try to grab you, and if he does, there's a good chance he'll just pluck, and he'll just pop you off the edge, and you're done, and you're dead. And then you have to walk all the way back. It's a decently fun fight, but it's definitely not my top 25. Difficulty's 45 out of 100. Decaying Ezekiel, I don't know how to say his name to this day, honestly, has quite a big leg up on the other simple dragon bosses in Elden Ring. Decaying Ezekiel, although is blind somehow, he has a ton of Scarlet Rot attacks that do an absolute shit ton of damage. One of which where he just blows like Scarlet Rot dust in the air and it's like really hard to get away from, and if it takes you for like literally 3 seconds, bam, you're half health already, and boom, you also have Scarlet Rot, so good luck just continuing the fight. He also has one where he like pops in the air and then blows all that smoke on the ground. And that one, if you're not far enough away from the epicenter of that smoke, you're just fucking dead. You can't do anything about it. You're going to get Scarlet Rotted or you're just going to straight die. It's fantastic. But other than that, he's like a basic dragon boss in Elden Ring, but with quite a little bit more danger attached to him. Difficulty's 45 out of 100. Draconic Tree Sentinel is a lot like the normal Tree Sentinel, but he's got a couple more tricks up his sleeve. One, he uses a lot of Dragon Lightning, and it's really annoying. He has a specific one where he either will launch it all over the ground with little red areas that you're not supposed to walk in that will strike lightning on you. That one's very easy to notice. Or he can put his shield up and he's going to like shove it down real quick, and there will be 2 lightning strikes straight on you. And if you don't roll at the right time, it could probably just smite you and kill you. Especially with as little health as I have in this, I'm pretty sure I would just straight die. Then once he gets to half health, he's also going to buff his weapon with lightning, and all of his attacks are going to do a fuck ton more damage and have AoEs. It's kind of annoying, but if you know the Tree Sentinel pattern, you should be pretty okay. He also likes to blow fireballs out of his horse's mouth, because that's a thing now, I guess. But other than that, he's just a basic Tree Sentinel with a little bit more to him. Difficulty's 46 out of 100.
Truest of dragons. Lend me thy strength.
Bear witness to Godric the Grafted. What a fantastic early game boss. He's not too hard, he's not too easy, he's just really great at what he does. I love Godric the Grafted. And that cutscene is one of the best in Souls history. Like, top 5, easily, I think. His first phase, he's going to have this giant axe that he likes to swing wildly around with both hands, and it has some actual decent range despite how it looks. He also likes to like do this thing where he like blows wind, and if you don't block it or dodge, it's gonna do fuck tons of damage and knock you off your feet. And then when he gets to his second phase, this is my favorite part, he's gonna graft a dragon to where his arm used to be, which is so fucking cool, first of all. I know I sound like a fucking dork, but man, it's awesome. And then this dragon will blow fire out at you. He will combine that wind attack earlier to where it does fire and wind that does so much damage for no reason. And it's just a great fight. He also has a bear witness attack where he's gonna like shove the dragon into the sky. It's gonna blow fire and like rain meteors down. The arena is fantastic. This is just a really good boss, and I think they did an amazing job at the beginning of Elden Ring with this guy. I love Godric the Grafted. Difficulty's 46 out of 100. Just barely missing the top 100 is the Demon of Song. This entire area is just asshole, but this boss is pretty good. I'm a fan of this one. That beautiful singing you've been hearing this entire time is not a beautiful woman, but it is in fact a frog. Yep. He has some dangerous attacks, and the only part that you can actually hit of him is the skull inside of its mouth, so that's kind of cool and unique, I guess. He has a lot of water attacks, and sometimes he's going to stand straight up and just belly flop on you, which does a fuck ton of damage, so make sure to get out of the way of that. And after you beat this boss, you get a Keyblade for some reason. I don't know why, but it's pretty fucking cool. Difficulty is 46 out of 100. Woo, number 100! Number 100 hardest boss in the From Software catalog is the Dual Erdtree Avatar. It's like the normal Erdtree Avatar, but there's 2 of them, pretty much. They both take damage, however, trying to deal with 2 of these things at once kind of fucking sucks. One can be shooting lasers at you while one's trying to like hit you with its hammer and you have to dodge stupid ways. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. Dual archery avatars actually can be easily killed if you have like the blasphemous blade and you can hit them both at once. If you have an attack that can hit 2 things at once like a big AoE, you can crush this thing pretty easily. Difficulty is 46 out of 100. Can we talk about how we are 140 bosses in with only 99 left? And somehow we aren't even at the halfway mark in difficulty. That shows you how much of a jump these games have in difficulty. There's a lot of medium difficulty bosses and a lot of easy difficulty bosses, but the ones people talk about are usually like the top 25, top 50 bosses. They get really fucking annoying. But on to this one. The Stray Demon you can fight pretty much immediately if you really wanted to, as long as you go back up to the top of Firelink Shrine and curl up into a ball. The boss isn't that hard at all. It's basically the normal Asylum Demon, but he's got a couple more attacks, and he has an AoE that does way too much fucking damage, but other than that, it's literally the same boss. I'm also going to lump in the Demon Fire Sage here also into number 99 because it's the exact same boss, like actually the exact same boss, in a different arena. So I'm just going to count Demon Fire Sage and Stray Demon both as number 99 with a difficulty of 47. A boss very narrowly not reaching my top 25 favorite, the Dragon Slayer armor is a boss that's often forgot about in Dark Souls 3, and that's kind of sad because it's a really cool armor. Because it's a really cool boss. I'm an idiot. When I first started playing this game, I heard about this boss and I genuinely thought this was Ornstein for the 3rd time, and when I got here I realized it wasn't. They just look really similar. He's got a big ol' axe that he can shoot wind strikes at you from, and my favorite part of this whole thing is when he gets knocked down, he like does a huge attack to get back up as if it's trying to punish you for trying to hit him when he goes down. It's a really cool boss. He also does some decent damage for this part of the game, and that's kind of saying something. He's very fast and he's a really cool night boss. Difficulty is 47 out of 100. Hee, I forgot about this one, so it doesn't get an official rank. We're just going to say 97.5 Radio FM. Man-Eaters here are on a big old bridge that they got inspired by from Taurus Demon. I know the game came out after, shut up. And they like to push you off this bridge a lot, from what I hear. I've never died to this boss. But the Man-Eaters actually do a fuck ton of damage, and there's 2 of them. So it's kind of like a mix between the Taurus Demon and the Bell Gargoyle. So do with that what you will. Sorry, I forgot about this boss. So 97.5. Man-Eaters. Difficulty is 47 out of 100. This boss gets this high of a spot simply because of one thing. I could not figure this out. This was the only gimmick fight probably in the From Software catalog that I had to actively look up a guide because I could not just figure it out. When you walk in this arena, there's a guy that's going to say something, and then you're going to kill the fool's... Sorry. And then you're going to try to kill the fool's idol, which isn't necessarily too difficult by itself. It's a lot like Deacons of the Deep in a weird way. She's going to spawn a bunch of herself, most of which are fake. This is like Crystal Sage also kind of too. And one of them you're actually going to be able to do damage. And the one that does a huge magic attack as opposed to the little magic attacks is the real one. And she also traps the ground like the Trapper in Dead by Daylight. And if you get stuck in it, she can pelt you with magic and do fuck tons of damage. It's really annoying. However, once you kill her, she doesn't die. You can just walk out of the room and walk back in, and she'll respawn. And I could not figure out for the life of me what the fuck to do. I looked all around the arena, I couldn't find anything. But before the fight starts, if you go to the right instead of forward to the boss fight, you can go up this little tower, and there's going to be this little stupid dude up here that has like a bell or is casting a magic spell or something like that. And once you kill him, you can actually kill the boss, because you cannot kill the boss until you kill this guy. And the first time I fought this, I was fighting with the plague, so I didn't figure out after I killed her, and then I just kind of sat there and died from the plague. It's awesome. Difficulty's 47 out of 100. Dark Beast Pearl really intimidated me when I first tried to fight this thing, but it's actually not too big of a deal. It can be kind of a DPS check, but it's a small DPS check. It's not a big deal. If you have a big weapon, even better. This boss is even easier. Dark Beast Pearl is this big skeleton-looking thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks weird. And it has electricity all around it, which does a lot of damage. So what you're supposed to do here is find the leg you like. It doesn't matter what leg. Just find one. And wail on it until it's literally nothing. If you can knock him down, you have plenty of time for him to get back up. And he starts with electricity again. Just hit the same leg again. It'll fall down again. You can stun lock this guy really easily. Just when he gets electricity out, it does a lot of damage, and that's the only reason it's so high. Difficulty's 48 out of 100. Half-Light Spear of the Church is a very, very strange boss for this late in the DLC, of the final DLC, of the final game of Dark Souls. So I'm not sure what they were thinking. I don't dislike this boss, it's just a very strange choice. First things first, it's going to be Sasuke from Naruto for some reason. I swear this character is modeled after it. I don't know why. It's a player character if you're online, but I wasn't in this case. So it's going to be Sasuke. Sasuke here has an extremely strong, annoying Meteor Blade, and he has this really strong attack where he like launches the Half-Light Spears into the air, and it can tick damage down pretty fast. All while this is happening, there's a random-ass Painting Guardian just throwing daggers at you the whole time. Just take out the Painting Guardian, he will respawn, but you might as well just take him out anyway. It's kind of annoying. This game it's just a very strange boss for this late. Difficulty is 48 out of 100. I've had people talk about this boss being really hard, but I can't in good conscience put it above like 48 difficulty because I have literally never died to this boss, and it's not even ever really been that close. I mean, I can see how it's kind of hard, but it's not that. Lawrence the First Fight card is literally just a reskin of the Cleric Beast with a few dangerous twists. Number one, he does fire damage, which is actually a pain in the ass in Bloodborne. Number two, when he gets to half health, he fucking explodes and his legs fall off. Which is hilarious, honestly. Then he crawls around like a weird little crawler from Nazi zombies, and he leaves lava trails all over the place, and he gets a lot more dangerous, which is weird because you would think he would become easy. Other than that, he's pretty similar to the Cleric Beast. And also, don't ask why I have antlers on in this clip. I thought they were cute. Difficulty's 48 out of 100. Loretta, Knight of the Haligtree, is a lot like her previous version earlier in this list, but it's a little bit tougher, and she actually can do a little bit of damage. Her magic is nothing to be scoffed at, and also when she does that like arrow thing I mentioned earlier, she does it like 5 times in a row. Or rather, there's like 5 arrows that like spray out of the fucking bow and beam you. And it's a lot harder to dodge. She does a lot more damage, and she buffs herself around halfway. Loretta can be kind of a bitch, but she's not like the biggest deal in the world. You have fought enough Tree Sentinels at this time in the game to pretty much be okay. I can see you dying a couple times with this boss, though. Difficulty's 48 out of 100. Throne Watcher and Defender is kind of an annoying boss, and coincidentally also what I named the 2 little voices in my head. Throne Watcher and Defender is a flawed boss at its core. They tried to make ONS again with this fight and failed miserably. The whole point of this fight was one was supposed to be very passive and cast magic from a distance, and one was supposed to be super aggressive. But I don't know what the fuck they did, and just both of them are just super aggressive all the time. It's kind of annoying, but if you've done all the DLCs at this point, they're kind of squishy, so you can take them out pretty easily. I'm pretty sure you can also knock them off the edge somehow too, but I don't know how to do that. Once one goes down, however, they can revive each other, so you want to kill them kind of close to each other. Once they get to about half health each, they're going to buff themselves and do a lot more damage, so be careful. You can easily get overwhelmed in this fight, but it's not too big of a deal. You should be able to take one out pretty fast and then try to whittle the other one down. And then once that other one revives him, you'll have plenty of time to go attack him and probably kill him. Difficulty is 48 out of 100. The world's most annoying DPS check. The Belfry Gargoyles are just a straight ripoff of the original Bell Gargoyles. And it is a lot harder. I dread this fucking fight every time I play this game, because it is awful. Instead of having 2 gargoyles to deal with and one gets to half health, you are on a time limit into which 5 gank you this entire time, and they are about as strong as the normal gargoyles were. Don't let anyone tell you that, oh, they're weaker. No, this boss fucking sucks. I dread this fucking boss. If you don't have a massive fucking weapon, you're gonna be destroyed immediately when you walk in here. After like 2 get in here, they're gonna gank you. Unless you have 5 billion healing items, you're screwed. Just come here way late in the game after you have a massive amount of DPS, because you're not gonna win otherwise. Or if you do, you're gonna be wasting so much of your Divine Blessing that's not even funny. Difficulty's 49 out of 100. Could it be finally a really, really good Dark Souls 2 boss? It could. The Looking Glass Knight is a beautiful boss on a fantastic arena in the Storm. And the Storm actually plays a role in this fight, where every once in a while he's going to put his sword in the air and get it struck by lightning, and he's going to launch the lightning at you. It's so cool. I really like this fight. And this was also a really unique fight to where sometimes he's going to shove his mirror on the ground, I'm sorry, his Looking Glass on the ground, and he's going to summon a player if the servers weren't down when I played this. And you can actually play and fight other people's in this boss arena. It's really cool. I love this fight. He also has some basic combos that are really hard-hitting, but very fair dodge timing. It's just a really well-made boss, and I'm so glad that Dark Souls 2 has some great bosses to balance off the really dog shit ones. Difficulty is 50 out of 100. Ava the King's Pet is a big cat thing, I guess, and she is kind of a bitch, honestly. If you walk in this boss arena, as soon as you get to this DLC, you're going to be surprised because it's invisible and it's actually really hard to see. You can't see its footprints or anything. You're just going to get fucked, pretty much. I'm sure you can beat this boss when it's invisible, but it's very hard. If you do, however, go to the right instead of the left here and not go immediately into the fog wheel because your monkey brain says you got to fight the boss immediately, you can find a ring that will make it visible, and it makes things a lot easier. This boss is just kind of a big monster enemy, one that you just want to stick to its ass at all times. But try to stay a little bit away from its head and to the right and left of its head, because it can catch you off guard and do some damage that way. It is kind of a bitch, but you should be able to get through this no problemo, as long as you don't stand near it with its AoE when its AoE is going off, because that will do a fuck ton of damage and might, in fact, just get you killed, because it might stunlock you. Difficulty is 50 out of 100. Emma the Gentle Blade is a boss that is guarding the final boss for the Shura path of this game. And trust me, you're going to fight this boss a lot, whether you want to or not. Because if you fuck up the boss after this, you have to fight Emma again. And Emma at the beginning is actually probably really hard for you, but you're going to get the hang of it really fucking fast, trust me. I can do this boss hitless, which I actually did in this footage. But she has some basic Sekiro combos, ones you should be able to get down pretty easily. The only problem with her, and the only reason she's so high right now, 50 difficulty here, is her grab. That thing has just phantom range sometimes, and if you get hit by it, you're gonna die, probably. It's just a really annoying and broken grab that should not be what it is. And the other problem is you're gonna fight this boss a fuck ton. I kind of hate the fact that you have to fight this if you fuck up the next boss, but good luck. This boss is just kind of a bitch. And this is actually you fighting basically your Firekeeper for Sekiro, which is really unique, and I'm surprised you haven't got to do that in any other Dark Souls games. That'd be pretty cool. So, Miyazaki, take that note, and just name it like Pugs or something. I don't know, name the boss after me. Difficulty's 50 out of 100. We are finally getting to bosses that you could realistically struggle on quite a bit, but it shouldn't be taking you like more than like 15 attempts probably at this point. Aldrich, the Devourer of Gods, has taken up a spot where he should not be in Ornstein and Smoke's arena. He also has eaten quite a few bosses of previous games, such as Nito and Darkmoon Gwendolyn and others, because all of the theme of his music is based on all of these things, and he also looks just like all of them. He's a fat slob that just eats shit. It's like me after 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Speaking of which, I just had a croissant warmed up. It was good. He has some normal attacks that are pretty easily dodgeable. He'll wave around that scythe thing, I guess. I don't know what it actually is. And it can actually do quite a bit of damage. And when he gets into his second phase, that's when he gets really, really dangerous. He has an arrow rain thing in the first stage that you can like easily just sidestep. But in the second phase, it will follow you. And if you're not walking or running around a pillar, you're gonna die. Like, actually, it will just straight kill you. It's great. And it's actually one of my least favorite attacks in the entire series, because I don't know what the fuck to do sometimes, and it makes me panic every single time. In his second phase, he also has a lifesteal scythe that is a big pain in the ass if you didn't know it existed before, and then all of a sudden he's just back to full health after he hits you like twice with 2 big hits. It's really annoying. I don't like Aldrich. He's kind of a douchebag. Difficulty is 51 out of 100.